here, baby. The pump fake is over. Let it go. I think I might hit the PlayStation noise. I don't have my headphones on. We're getting whatever sound. I'm speaking over whatever's happening right now. We're live. We're in full effect. Let me make sure everything's turned up. We're going to have a fun time tonight. I got some videos to react to. You see in the title. I did a live over on my buddy Casey's channel, which is King Cobra. Go check him out if you have the time. But I did a live over there last night, and it was a lot of fun. And we talked about things like saying what's actually in the title so the algorithm actually knows you're talking about what's in the title. Okay, so, and don't get me wrong, I have heard the whispers and I've heard the comments of, hey, where the fuck did you talk about this thing or that thing that's in the title? I'm trying to get better at all these like under the 5-minute things. So less cussing like I just did, and absolutely say that we're talking about tonight for sure. And I am saying, I'm not saying this is disingenuous in any way at all. Liver King and Joe Rogan, that's getting talked about tonight. 100%. Did Trump end the 12-day war as he deemed it? Is it happening right now? Is a ceasefire? Is a ceasefire a tentative ceasefire? Is that an end to a war? I mean, I don't know. Complicated questions. And then, you know what? Here you go. Make sure I'm still fully on Mars with Dr. Manhattan. And yeah, we're going to talk about that whole situation. We're also going to do the review of the Piers Morgan, Candace Owens back and forth. There's some more on that video. We'll see if we get to it or not. We'll see if it's interesting. I also want to say I have on the docket here, we got to talk about the Young Turks going crazy over there. They're getting criticism and they're just like fucking their heads exploding for the criticism. Like, just, I just want to be honest. Look, I want to be clear here. If you get in the comments and things like that, and something I said you like wholeheartedly disagree with or something of that nature, I'm not going to be mad at it one bit. I can ride with it. It's like, I just don't understand why people have political shows and they have strong political takes and they expect whatever their fan base is not to, not at least a portion of it to, be vocally on a different page. So, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. What else do we got? We might get to channel 5, but that's not the title, and I'm not promising that. But I have some other goodies here. I have an Israeli rap song. Skip Bayless and his wife talking about a hall pass. That's just fucking. If you've seen that in your own mind, and I put that there, I apologize. But we're gonna get into it. Also, make sure you subscribe if you're locked in here with me. Make sure you subscribe because we're just going live more often. Tomorrow I'm planning a live, so we'll have Paul in here for that, and we'll also have Cody in here. So you guys that saw Cody and enjoyed him, and anybody that Cody directed towards the channel, I appreciate you. And he will be on the podcast tomorrow, and we're going to talk about all the political going-ons for sure. We'll throw in a few other goodies as we do. And that's just what it is. And that's what we do every time. The Liver King hunts down Joe Rogan shit, I'm going to have a little bit towards the back end because it is a lot of content there. Welcome back. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Love it. Appreciate you. And I'm glad I'm coming through nice and crispy right now. Fireworks. But yeah, so the Liver King stuff we're going to get to after, just because it is a lot of broken down videos and a lot of incoherent ramblings, not unlike what I'm doing now, but just a little bit more violent and directed towards a specific human being that he wanted to fight. And it was that fight to the death or not. I mean, we'll watch the videos, which I haven't seen all of them. I've only seen like one, and I was like, okay, well, this is something to talk about. And then, yeah, so we're going to get into the Piers Morgan first, actually. Piers Morgan, Candace Owens. I actually don't know what all to expect because I do try to keep these reactions really honest and like the first time reaction with you guys, because I want to hear your opinion and I want to be coming at it organically in that way. I don't like to watch things and then come into the podcast already with a formed sense of where my opinion is exactly. I want to be able to kind of explore that and figure out exactly where I'm at with you guys, and also be open to whatever kind of insight I might end up channeling out there in the world. Let's go ahead and check this out. This is the Piers. I need my headphones. It's a shame, but we're 5 minutes in. So we're 5 minutes in. When you have hair like this, you hate to pull it back if you're me. So I hate to do this. But yeah, here it is. Look, fuck it. Even Jesus had to pull his hair back sometimes, you know, so I just can't be afraid of it. But here we go. Piers Morgan versus Candace Owens. I wonder how all that is going to land. I know that they're talking about this Iran conflict, and here's the president talking about, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing, which is another interesting thing I want to kind of pick apart with you guys and talk about, and people's reaction to that, and, you know, potentially how effective of a political strategy, regardless of how, you know, disingenuous or harmful your actions could be, is like, there's a certain portion of people that just, if you say the fuck word as the president, they're like, he's honest. That's an honest guy. That's a fucking honest guy. So let's go ahead and just dig into this Piers Morgan.
We have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
There was no imminent threat to the United States when Trump made
the president said that. Now stop fucking censoring us on YouTube for saying it like we're babies. Stop putting my fucking videos in a hole because I speak like a fucking grown-ass man and an adult, YouTube. Your bullshit fucking censorship. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. All right, back to it. Candace Owens, speak, queen.
This decision to do what Bibi wanted. And I want to be clear here. This was not Trump's decision. It was Bibi Netanyahu's decision. And that is the reason that he did it. And we're very aware that Israel is dictating our foreign policy, and we would now like that to stop.
He hates nuclear war. He hates regular war.
Yeah.
And I think he really believes he did the right thing, and I don't think he's being duped by it.
What Americans now are searching for is...
we will not listen to Bill O'Reilly. America has been listening to Bill O'Reilly for far too long. Guys, I'm sorry. Get in the comments if you feel like we need to stick around for the Bill O'Reilly take. Bill O'Reilly take from fucking 25 years ago. This show, throw that shit on repeat. I just don't give a fuck about that. So we're probably not going to stick around for that. I knew there was a bunch of conversations in here, and it wasn't just the Candace and Piers conversation. So I was expecting this, but yeah, I don't like that.
Fact-based analysis. They'd like to get the truth without all the garbage, without all the ideology, without all the hidden agendas.
Are you done with Donald Trump?
He's been a chronic disappointment.
One of the most striking points about the Iran debate is that President Trump has faced more backlash from America First conservatives than the foreign policy class which reviles him. General H.R. McMaster, Ambassador John Bolton and Chris Christie are among those on TV praising the president, all of whom have previously described him as unfit to be president, and much more unflattering things than that. But the strongest opposition to the US attack came from within the MAGA base itself. Those on the Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon wing of the movement believe the no more foreign wars principle is not only integral to the MAGA movement, but the entire reason it started in the first place. I interviewed three prominent conservatives, very different takes on this vexed debate at various different stages yesterday, including as news of the Iranian retaliation was breaking. Candace, welcome back to Uncensored.
Thank you. It's good to be back, just in time for World War III.
Well, yes. Well, before we get there, how is motherhood treating you?
Motherhood is treating me great. I'm exhausted, as is to be expected with the newborn, but always a blessing.
Well, indeed it is, and I wish you all the very best.
What a queen.
With that. Okay, let's talk about impending World War III, as you put it. You are implacably opposed to what both Israel and now the United States have done here. Why?
Yeah. Because, well, first and foremost, just on the MAGA movement level, Trump came out and he gave us a promise that we were not going to be involved in wars. And I'm going back to 2015. Why did people get so excited about Donald Trump, who was then an unlikely candidate, who was being smeared by the media as being Adolf Hitler? Well, it was because he recognized that the American people were being forgotten while we were giving billions of unaccounted billions, by the way, for these never ending wars. And so it's one of the earliest reasons that people got behind him and got behind his vision. And so we're opposed to a regime change because America as a country has a lot of problems that need to be fixed here first. It's that simple.
Right, but it's not quite that simple. And I'll explain to you why. Because Donald Trump, I think he's not been inconsistent in the sense that in his first term, he wasn't a pacifist. You know, he killed General Soleimani. He killed Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, and went after them ferociously. He attacked Syria when they killed American troops.
So with all of this, though, just to keep in perspective, none of those attacks had the same potential to result in some kind of like global conflict that attacking Iran does. So when he's saying that he wasn't a pacifist, I mean, that's basically basically framing the argument as a straw man, where he's going to completely go to the weakest absolute version of this argument. Like, well, he has shown that, you know, he'll command military strikes before, therefore, you know, I guess any military strike, therefore, is, you know, so it just doesn't follow. But
you know, he dropped a massive bomb in Afghanistan. It wasn't like he never deployed the American military. And again, here, what he would argue, and has been arguing, is he's not declared war on anybody. What he's done is very specifically target Iran's nuclear capability because of latest reports coming out, which said they had taken the enrichment of their uranium stocks from 3.5% to 60%, and that therefore the leap to weaponization was moving at a pace that couldn't be tolerated. I got to say, I kind of agree. Now, if he suddenly commits, you know, troops on the ground, then that becomes a different thing altogether. But even when Trump talked about regime change, I think he meant from within, as we saw in Syria in December, where the people themselves rise up. And if that was to happen, why would that be a bad thing?
Okay, so you're asking a lot of questions here. So first and foremost, the idea that you have to formally declare war on like a piece of paper in order for war to happen is a little bit ridiculous. I mean, he dropped bombs. He dropped bombs in Iran. So yes, we are a part of this war, whether we like it or not. Iran is now speaking and saying that they're going to shut down the Hormuz Strait. There's going to be impact on oil.
Why would they do that? Why would they do that when the main victim of doing that would be Iran? I mean, 50% of China, of the traffic of stuff through there is for China, which is one of their allies.
Don't care, not my.
You know what's wild about that, though, is that they think that if this regime gets a nuclear weapon, that they would just fire it off and basically just face mutually assured destruction based off like some fear of Islam and some kind of like martyrdom that they think that they're going to chase after. But then they're not going to be willing to face the financial repercussions of shutting down the Hormuz Strait. Like, come on. Like, once again, like the logic has to continue to follow.
Business. The point that I'm making here is that to make the assumption that you can just drop bombs on a country and then say, well, you know what, we didn't formally declare war is patently ridiculous. I think that is just patently ridiculous.
What about when he killed General Soleimani, one of Iran's top military commanders?
Sure, an assassination, a strike, and that, of course, came with some risk. It's a little bit different to be flying out B-6 bombers in the middle of the night and dropping bombs at the behest of Bibi Netanyahu.
After they're in an active war, essentially, with Israel. Like, there's no question that they're trading back and forth with Israel. So maybe there's a question as to like how severe our strike is in a vacuum compared to other strikes. But the context of this one is so much different. So it's like, this is just such a dishonest argument that's just like holding on to wanting to support a certain side or ideology. It's like, you just got to call it what it is. I respect what Candace Owens is doing right here. And she is a queen and I love her. But, regardless of what her affiliation is and the people that watch her, what their affiliation is, in this case, I think she is being principled.
Which brings me to the second point. The reason that America wants a regime change in Iran is because Bibi Netanyahu is demanding it. And that answers the question as to why there is this split in the MAGA movement. What we are seeing right now is the infiltration of Israel first people, the neocons, people who have always wanted never-ending wars, and the people who have recognized that following Israel's foreign policy initiatives has led to America being on the decline. And so that's where I stand. I am with the MAGA people who grew up, I call us like, Generation 9/11, who were told that America was going to be rendered safer, cleaner. All we had to do was agree to go to, well, ironically, war with Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. It's all of the same rhetoric dating back to 9/11, all of the same tactics of trying to smear people who are against this war as supporting jihadists. It is not my business to affect a regime change in Iran. It's simply not our business. It doesn't impact us one way or the other. And we also are completely done with the idea that with these decades-long idea that we're doing it to spread democracy because we believe in international liberalism. There was no imminent threat to the United States when Trump made this decision to do what Bibi wanted. And I want to be clear here. This was not Trump's decision. It was Bibi Netanyahu's decision. And that is the reason that he did it. And we're very aware that Israel is dictating our foreign policy, and we would now like that to stop.
Okay, but you wouldn't disagree, presumably, that Iran has been the main sponsor of terrorism in the Middle East through...
Is he addressing what she said? It's fine if we're going to kind of like move it a little bit, but she just fucking sauteed his ass. And I'm just wondering if he was going to, it just doesn't seem like he's responding to what she's saying.
The Houthis through Hezbollah, through Hamas. I mean, that's widely accepted and recognized. They've done
Widely.
Yeah, what the fuck does that have to do with America going over there and bombing them? That's the whole issue, is why is it to the point where Israel is engaging in wars that they know that they can't sustain, supposedly, without America? You know what I mean? Like basically pulling us in. So it's like, that's just crazy. That's crazy.
Accepted. No, that's just kind of
really? You don't think they have?
Has been a terrorist state. Okay, Israel right now is imparting a genocide and a Holocaust on the Gazan people. So I'm really over this idea like somehow Israel has the moral high ground and we have to get behind them.
I didn't say that.
We got to go after the bad guys.
I wasn't saying that.
We have.
Oh, hang on. Look, we can come to Gaza where I think we'll reach agreement about what Israel's government's been doing there in the last few months. Without
but it's relevant. If you're going to call Iranians terrorists, if they right now had an open concentration camp where they were mass killing their own people, we would all be saying this is ridiculous. So it's rich to me that people are concerned about Iran having nukes. But I'm concerned about Israel, who won't even admit that they have nukes, having nukes, while at the same time they are executing a genocide and a Holocaust in Gaza that the world is watching. So who's
and they killed JFK.
The bigger terrorist is the question today. I would say, as an American, that if we're going to get behind a regime change, it should be in Israel first. So that would be my position. I think the position of a lot of people who are waking up to the fact that Zionism has brought us nothing but grief in America. Can you name one positive thing that Zionists have contributed to America? That us fighting these perpetual wars on behalf of Zionism has contributed to America?
But can you also recognize that Israel, placed where it is as a tiny thumbprint...
Click that link if you want to defend Israel. Anybody, go for it.
In the middle of a region where you have massive countries full of a lot of people that want to wish them harm. And in the case of the terror groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, actually want to get rid of Israel and all Israelis altogether. Can you accept that if you have a huge...
That's based off rhetoric in a region that is hostile. It's not as if the fucking Israelis don't say similar shit. You can pinpoint other groups within the Israeli government where they say genocidal shit outright. So it's like, of course, these are communities and just countries that are directly adversarial. So it's like looking at them and saying like, oh, they say fucking death to America, death to Israel, and then we actually kill their people. We actually bring death upon them. It's like, of course, if it was the other way around, you would obviously be saying death to whoever. And I'm not saying I'm not pro-America, because of course I'm pro-America in any situation. But that's the reality of it. I want to be pro-America in a way where we're making the right decisions and we're making the right moves globally, and we're not, ostracizing ourselves globally to the point where, none of, like I said, even with our allies, where our allies are looking at us like we're unreliable.
Nation like Iran with 90 million people, and they are facilitating these terror groups to that purpose, that Iran has to defend itself. Now, I would not disagree with you about what has been going on in Gaza in the last few months. I've been very vocal in my criticism of that. Nor do I disagree, by the way, that it wouldn't help Israel if they did have regime change and Netanyahu wasn't prime minister anymore. So on those points...
That was a great suggestion from Candace Owens. Let's just... I don't think I have the claps on here anymore. Let me try.
In politics.
That's like a clap for us. On this channel, that's a clap. No, that's 100% a great point. And I think like centering the conversation around that is actually a pretty healthy way to handle it, I think. Like, what is the current will of the government, and why is the current people in charge, and the prime minister specifically, like, why are these people not being investigated for just, well, one, the war crimes that they're consistently fucking perpetrating? And I think we'll get into today or maybe tomorrow about the humanitarian aid and the people who are getting shot and killed at the humanitarian aid sites. And we already covered how Israel basically stopped allowing general humanitarian aid from coming in and said, okay, we're only going to take it specifically through this company, this American company that's like a fucking, filled with like fucking Blackwater agents and shit. It's just disgusting, bro. It's absolutely disgusting. And it's like, it shows you before cameras and before the connection of the internet, how much shit the government and just these powers in place could honestly get away with. I mean, they're already still getting away with it, and they're trying their best to basically just ignore, I think, the voice of the people, which the voice of the people, it's astounding, like, how many people I speak to on any side of the political aisle that say, yeah, this war is silly. It's not something we should be involved in. And people that are starting to, kind of like draw the connection between the war and Israel themselves and the influence there, which I think is dangerous for the nation of Israel. If you want to talk about anything that's dangerous, it's like, okay, your neighbors all had mixed feelings about you, let's just say, because of, years and years and years of conflict, which you can go on either side. I'm not even like picking a side there necessarily. But now you're in a position where, I mean, globally, you got to be on the most hated list right now. And that's not good for that's equally bad for your country, I think. And before, there was a lot of sympathy outside of the region. But now, outside of from, people who are fucking bought and paid for by AIPAC and Ted Cruz sitting down in the corner, fucking cucking out to the fucking Shalom. Like, I mean, which is that there's nothing wrong. Look, there is something wrong with that. But I'm just saying, like, America first. And look, American Jews are involved in that. But it's like, we should not be over in Israel fighting Israeli Middle East wars. Definitely not.
Point, I think we have agreement, but I come back to the fact that the reason Trump has done this, I think, is that he has for a long time said Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. I think he's absolutely right.
Is the only way to do that is bomb. By the way, I just don't want to get sued like how Ethan Klein's doing people. This has to be transformative. I gotta talk, y'all. I'm sorry. Anybody here watching and wants to watch the fucking Piers Morgan video just straight up, fuck you. I mean, you clicked on this video to watch it. You want to hear some commentary. The rest of you people, I'm sure, are not here for that. You want to have a conversation and some commentary, so I'm glad I'm here for it. But yeah, no. So I think, horseshit.
You believe that would be a pretty terrifying escalation of the power of a country that's been so wedded to terrorism in the region, and I think he took the action for that reason. So I don't really agree that he's only doing it because Bibi Netanyahu wants him to go along and do it. I think he's doing it because he believes it's in America's strategic interest that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
Okay, so that's why you use diplomacy. To say that is like kind of to assume and put like kind of project onto the situation that there's only one solution, and the solution is to bomb the shit out of their nuclear sites. No, maybe there's other solutions, like the solution that they already had in place and then that Trump pulled out of because he wanted to re-enter a similar fucking deal and just have his name on it so he can fucking give himself a Nobel Peace Prize. It's just so it's all so fucking disgusting and corrupt. It's insane. And it's so plainly in the open. And that's why, like, when we see this now, you just have to know the fuckery. His fucking built-in ads, you son of a bitch.
And use code Piers, P-R.
Don't fucking use that shit. No disrespect, Piers, but
Cozy Earth.
Get shit off. I'm not trying to get
temperature
sued.
regulating sheets, clothes, and more.
You gotta watch some
you
of the
will
ad.
feel
I
the
don't get
difference on
sued
the very
by fucking
first
Piers
night.
Morgan.
That's cozyearth.com.
I will
Promo
talk
code
over his
Piers.
bitch ass a little
Stay cool. No
Yeah,
one can
it is not in America's strategic interest. There was no imminent threat. He could have taken this to Congress and he could have allowed the people's representatives to vote on whether or not
but nobody does
it was
that.
in the American
But
people. There was
no president in living memory has, with almost zero exceptions, exceptions, has bothered to get congressional pre-approval for military strikes. We know that. You know that.
Yeah, we know that. And that's not okay. By the way, that's not okay.
Obama
That's
did more strikes than anybody, right?
Yes,
I mean, Obama never asked anybody for any permission. I'm not an Obama
supporter. Yeah, that doesn't make it okay. By the way, like that argument, just so we're clear, saying, well, we've been doing it wrong forever, so we should just keep doing it wrong is not an argument that it's right.
I don't disagree with you about that.
Okay, so
fucking just crushed his ass.
I disagree with Obama doing it. I disagree with Trump doing it.
Enough.
And
I want to argue with her and stare right in her fucking eyes the entire time.
Especially when what we're talking about is what could rise to be a nuclear war, right? We should have done things the right way. And he had indicated that he was going to wait 2 weeks, and then he didn't wait 2 weeks because Bibi Netanyahu, at least according to the Israeli press, if you believe it, said, we're not waiting 2 weeks. We want this done immediately. But I will say you are correct. He's not just doing this because Bibi Netanyahu demands it. He's also doing it because Miriam Adelson demands it. He took $100 million from Miriam Adelson. It was very clear what she wanted. She was clear that she wanted to annex the West Bank. So there was an imperialist plan that was put into place. And unfortunately, when you do a deal with the devil, you're going to have to eventually deliver the pound of flesh. And that is what Trump is doing, in my opinion. And more evidence of that is the fact
biblical shit.
When he tweeted that there could be a Trump hotel in Gaza. I mean, that was truly, in my opinion, the most inhumane thing he's ever tweeted.
Well, I think it was pretty clear what he was doing there was pretty clear. He's saying he wants a better life for Palestinian people, a life where they have beaches,
well, when you
and they
pair
have
that
hotels,
with Jared
and they have golf
Kushner
courses.
and Jared Kushner's private equity firm and
while people are starving,
their ties to what's happening in Israel, and Jared Kushner being on camera shortly after October 7th saying, wow, that property could be worth a lot of money. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable. It makes Americans a little bit uncomfortable. Now, you've asked me to come onto your show to explain to you how the now very fractured MAGA movement is feeling. And I'm telling you that, right?
No, it's really, honestly,
I do also.
I find the split in the conservative movement in America genuinely fascinating because it really is a genuine schism now.
Yeah, there's a genuine schism, and it's only going one direction. And by the way, we shouldn't even call this a schism because trying to dress this up and delude us into believing that the MAGA movement is what has Meghan McCain cheering, John Bolton cheering, has Mark Levin cheering. The literal faces of the Never Trump movement are saying this is real MAGA. Yeah, we're not going to be that delusional.
But you're on the same side as Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez. How do you feel about that?
You're asking about the MAGA movement. The MAGA movement has always been a movement that explicitly did not want to keep involving our sons and daughters in the Middle East. So we have not changed that position. If AOC was always anti-war, then she should have thrown on a red hat in 2020 and in 2015 and joined the MAGA movement. That would have been fantastic.
But are you saying America should never use any military action? You're on the same side as
Greta Thunberg when it comes to the Palestinians being
but are you saying,
Candace,
are you saying...
I'm going to let him say this, but look at how crazy he's trying to frame her point to the absolute extreme. Like as if being against this means you would never be for any military action ever.
Yeah, I'm aligned.
Okay, but are you saying that America should never use any military action then?
No. I'm not saying America can never use any military action. In fact, what I said earlier was I could get behind a regime change in Israel because I think it would fix a lot of issues that are happening and it has been happening to America over time. Like I said,
why
America
wouldn't you want it in Iran? I mean, I'm reading an Amnesty International report from 2024.
Because Iran is not negatively impacting. I'm answering your question because Iran's regime is not negatively impacting America on a day-to-day basis.
When the leader of Iran says death to America, why doesn't that concern you?
That's a chant. And by the way, I want to be very clear. Why are they chanting death to America?
Oh my God, yeah.
Why are they chanting that? That's kind of a random thing. Like I don't wake up one day and go like,
dead?
But
just for fucking nothing, you dumbass. Piers Morgan, stop talking about American politics, bro.
Why do they want? Why are they specifically chanting as opposed to saying, I don't know, death to China or death to Russia? What is it specifically about America?
Well, they say death to America, death to Israel, death to the United Kingdom, actually.
Oh, okay.
Death to pretty much anyone that wants to stand up to them.
Could have had something to do with our actions in the Middle East is why I'm saying that we need a change in foreign policy. Maybe it has something to do with just like killing a million Iraqi civilians, okay, because Bibi Netanyahu got on a congressional stage and said there are weapons of mass destruction, and we took that to the bank, and there actually were no weapons of mass destruction, so we just killed a million. It could have something, I could be crazy, it could have something to do with our actions in the Middle East. The fact that we have 2,000 troops stationed in Syria right now under the guise of saying that we're fighting ISIS, while at the same time we know that Bibi Netanyahu funded the Al-Qaeda adjacent front because he wanted to overthrow Syria, and they again expand their borders, immediately take on territory and sell us absolute nonsense. We're talking about funding Hamas. Bibi Netanyahu funded Hamas. There is footage of Bibi Netanyahu saying this stuff on camera. So it's just so ridiculous to me to pretend that they're in some predicament, that they may be eradicated soon, which is why they have to keep funding all of these terrorist groups and then pretending that they're victims of terror, when in fact they are people that are imparting it worldwide. I just think that, like I said, Generation 9/11 has grown up, and I think that our eyes are very clear here, and we recognize that our relationship with Israel has become increasingly problematic, and it always was problematic. So I'll again ask the questions, Piers. I'm asking you because we're having a conversation.
Yeah, answer the questions. Stop asking them, because you look like a goddamn rat. You look like a fucking fool right now. Candace is cooking this motherfucker. He should take the fucking microphone away from him. His little cutscene. Only person that's a boss around here is me. No, Candace Owens came through and she dragged her fucking coochie across the floor, and she owns that fucking studio now. I just want to be clear, because every point he's made, fucking embarrassing.
Name something positive that our Zionist AIPAC foreign policy has brought to America.
Well, I think the positive side of, if you want an answer about that, is that America has been Israel's steadfast ally because it recognizes as a country that Israel has been under an almost unique, multifaceted threat on its border for a very long time from people that want to destroy it. And that you may not see that as a benefit, but Israel has been very supportive to the United States in many ways. Right. So why shouldn't America?
I just want something concrete that has been benefit. Like, we got better in America in this way. Just name something. Gas prices, just something that the average American can relate to.
Well, you're not going to have a correlation between Zionism and gas prices in America. Of course, you're not.
She wants to listen to this fucking dishonest argument from this British bastard talking about our fucking goddamn red, white, and blue fucking flag. She's not asking you. That's her example. She's saying, give me an example of fucking anything, because he can't. He turns around and he grabs the other thing that she said conveniently. We see anybody with a fucking brain cell sees through this fucking horrible argumentation.
No, I'm just giving you an example. To just tell me one thing that tangible because what your argument here is like, you get a pat on the back and you can say that you helped this country, which was formed in 1948 by pretending to be refugees, if you will, and being invited into the homes of Palestinians, the horrific story
of what happened. Well, they weren't pretending to be refugees. They were people fleeing a Holocaust.
Let's be clear. Let me finish my statement.
What do you mean pretending to be refugees?
Let me finish my statement. When I say pretending to be refugees and being invited into the home, you would think that these people were helpless and were going to be grateful to the people that hosted them. People like Muhammad Hadid, Bella Hadid and Gigi Hadid's father, who was an infant at this time in his mother's arms. She had just given birth. They had invited these refugees because of the goodness of their heart. And then one day they return home and their doors are locked and they are told that if you try to enter, you are going to be shot and killed. That is the reality of how Israel was established as a state. Okay, that is not a stain that you can wipe from history. Most Americans.
Those women grew up to date the weekend. So it's important that we protected them at all costs.
Growing up, actually believe what happened was that, okay, it was a little messy. That's what happens after wars. Borders get changed. But at the very least, they were given money. I mean, you've lived here for hundreds of years. Here's money for your property. No, that's not what happened. They were forced out of their homes at gunpoint.
Listen,
and it's wrong. So we get to be the nation pat on the back. According to you, the thing that America gets. Let me finish. I'm going to let you finish. It's your show. We can, but let me finish. Your argument is that what we get to be is that nation that keeps supporting it as they continue to move their borders in this way. Now we're seeing that incursion into Gaza, and we are certainly going to see it by the end of this administration in the West Bank, because like I said, that is why Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million.
Look, as you know, I oppose what the Israeli government is doing now in Gaza. I oppose the expansion of settlements on the West Bank. I think all of that is completely wrong. I do think America supports Israel because it remains the only democracy in the Middle East, and that's an important...
They're not a democracy. Stop saying that, Piers. You know better.
Well, they have elections.
It's not a democracy.
They have elections.
But who gets to vote in those elections? Do the Gazans get to vote in that election?
Well, the Israelis get to vote in Israel, obviously.
Okay, so you're basically saying America had a democracy, we had
Israel
laws that said Black Americans couldn't, Black Americans
Israel
couldn't
moved
vote.
out. It is indisputable that Israel moved out of Gaza in
They still control like the power and things like that in Gaza. But I also don't necessarily agree with the point that she's making here, just to be fair. at this point, I don't know that you would expect, in my opinion, I wouldn't expect that the Gazans would be able to vote in Israel's elections. In my opinion, you would expect that Arab Israelis, so maybe people who had moved from Gaza to Israel at some point, I think they should obviously be able to vote in those elections. But I don't necessarily agree with the point she's making, but I assume it's the reason she's making that argument is because of the power that Israel has because of the blockade between Egypt and Israel. So
2005, and there was an election, and Hamas got elected. Right now,
yeah,
I
and
agree
that's because
I agree with you. I agree with
but Bibi Netanyahu was on camera saying that they were going to fund Hamas into power. So they orchestrated that because if they wanted to create the solution.
I agree with you that Netanyahu wanted to cause a split between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. It was divide and rule. It was a catastrophically bad strategy, and it led to what happened on October the 7th, over a 20-year period.
It was a good strategy.
There's no doubt. It was a terrible thing that Netanyahu did. One of the many reasons I think he should go. But
then let's not support active wars that him and his administration and people around him are engaging in. We should be advocating for, one, we're not going to continue to fund it. So we're going to make it as uncomfortable for you to do so as possible. And then we're also going to be vocal about a regime change. I'm not necessarily, he mentioned military strikes, and she was kind of for it. That was a little nuts for me on the ally. But I think it is fair in certain cases. If you have a rogue ally, it's not anything against the nation of Israel. It has everything to do with the actions of them and keeping world peace as much as that can be a thing, because that's what Trump is calling for right now, world peace. But this is one of hundreds of conflicts that are going around all the time. But the difference in this conflict here is that we are directly actually involved. I mean, to the point to where we're ourselves bombing at this point. I don't either. They're the closest thing to a democracy that you'll find in the Middle East. I mean, but I also believe that kings and sultans can rule their people fairly as well. Kings did it for hundreds of years during the medieval era. So that is true. I mean, but there's also a lot of evidence of kings not ruling fair in those same hundreds of years. So I don't know if it was, there were like golden eras and things like that during those times. So I think it is fair. I think what you're saying is completely fair as far as like, you kind of need to let people in those areas decide what kind of leadership they actually want to have. The problem with that is that power kind of always wants to kind of keep it regardless, even if it's the minority. So if the minority, like I'd argue this is probably the case everywhere, but in this country, I would say like the richest people in this country have a majority of the power, even though a majority of people in this country aren't necessarily rich in America's standards, obviously, in comparison to a lot of the other world, that would be the case. But very true. Yes, sir. But no, Jay, I love your pushback though, honestly. And I love the perspective here. Like I said, it gets me thinking, because I've said a few times on the podcast, you might have heard it, but I kind of struggle with this. It might be an inner instinct, I don't know, from my ancestors of wanting to colonize some shit. But I'm like, I'm not totally against modernizing these areas of the world. I don't want to have some kind of like global one government, new world order type shit, obviously. That's something that I'm weary of. But, I do think that it's hard to imagine that there's places in this world that, don't have running water or this or that. But of course, then I have to struggle with, because before I want to go fix all that, I obviously struggle with like kind of like a national pride, and that in reality we have some of those issues here still, and there's places in this country where people don't have clean running water or whatever. So it's like we could definitely elevate our quality of life here as well. But I definitely think that, when you have countries that are side by side, and I understand Israel's paranoia, when you're side by side with people that you believe have like kind of like archaic motivations, that their main motivation is basically to serving some purpose to have a better next life rather than fully maximizing the life that they have. You know, I mean, I get the paranoia with that, but that doesn't justify like the actions that we've seen, in my opinion. That's where, you know, I got to agree with my girl Candace here, who I love.
But there was no doubt that the Israelis pulled out of Gaza and allowed them to have elections, and they elected Hamas, and the rest has been disastrous history.
Because the Israelis funded, because Bibi Netanyahu, they funded Hamas.
I don't disagree with you, but they still had elections.
So it's like we rigged an election, but look what the election results show is that they wanted to put Hamas into power. And so when we talk about who is funding these terrorists, the answer is Bibi Netanyahu. And I don't want to get into his corruption trials, but every single person watching this right now should go pursue the documentary, The Bibi Files, because it is absolutely stunning to understand.
I believe one of the reasons. I believe one of the reasons. Let me answer the
question, because you still haven't given me anything other than like you guys get a pat on the back for supporting this created nation in the Middle East. I also just like to say all of the bad things that we have gotten because of our continued relation with Israel. First and foremost, the open borders. And you can relate to this. People in the UK, they just can't seem to connect the dots.
All right.
Oh my gosh, what's happening here? But I want to say this. Okay, we don't understand where all these refugees are coming from. Oh my God, where are all these refugees coming from? Who's funding them coming over into these borders? Well, this is what you get when you keep supporting these nonstop wars, when you keep bombing where these people live. And it's not even.
Great point. While you're bitching about them in England, that's a fucking amazing point. I wanted to get to your point, Jay, as well. But I wholeheartedly agree with that. For all these fucking people, regardless of what side you land on, but that bitch about people coming into America or coming into the UK, it's like, we definitely, if we're not going to help, that's one thing. And I think there's definitely an argument to be had there about how much we should be involved in helping. But we definitely shouldn't be making it unlivable like for them to stay there. You know what I mean? Or even just unreasonable. Because honestly, if you're bombing where I live in Florida, you made it unlivable. Maybe not literally for myself, but like, I just can't risk my family for that. You know what I mean? Like, if I have the means to get out of that situation, which, by the way, an underrated part of this with Israel, I think, is, you know, people underestimate the brain drain that happens when these kind of things happen. Ukraine experienced it, where you have a huge portion of the population, specifically people that are wealthy and maybe people that are, you know, heavily involved in these huge industries. They get the fuck out of the country because they have the means to do so. And you know, so you have all these people leave. But let me get you your comment here, Jay. Richard the Lionheart, Saladin were great leaders and honorable to each other during the Crusades. States' rights kind of goes against the New World Order idea, so I don't care for that either. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just reasons that I have some paranoia around that, and a little bit of distrust of just giant power centers, especially like creating new ones that don't explicitly exist, although I think there's obviously an argument that kind of like power center does exist and it's like more shadowy, but and we're probably seeing it more than fucking ever now, and I think that's why a lot of this shit is falling flat, because it's like, you know, you can just see it in an instance now. Like, these kind of like commentators are way more divided than we had during the Iraq War, for example. So it's just getting more and more and more connected. You're getting, you know, Palestinian journalism and that's all the only journalism you're getting, because Israel won't. This is something Piers talks about all the time. So how could you even trust any intelligence coming out of Israel? Not to be trusted, literally not to be trusted. But then selectively, in this case, he's, I guess, willing to trust it because of the paranoia that you have about Iran and their death cult chants, which, like I said, I get. That would make me uneasy if they were doing that in Canada, for sure. And I'm not saying that there's not still some risk that lies there, but it's like, it's just not really an imminent threat to the country. And it's just not a reason for us to provoke that, by the way, further past what we already may have done, which he already had mentioned, you know, attacks in Syria and things like that, and just the history of destabilizing the region for whatever fucking reason. And Jay says here, it sucks for the Palestinians. No one wants them and they have nowhere to go. Bro, it's absolutely heartbreaking for the Palestinians, truly. No, that's in this entire conflict with the Iran shit, even still, that's, I think, the group of people that, at least personally, that I personally feel for the most, and I don't want to lose sight of that in these conversations, because I think that has happened a bit in the media because this Iran conflict is so huge, so it's overshadowed that. And like I said, I have the story of the humanitarian aid drop sites and people getting shot at them and shit like that. It's like it's a systematic like elimination, erasure of a people, and just slowly moving them. And it's like from a official standpoint, when you start to talk about like presidents and things like that between our country, Israel, there's just not the right desire to end that. I don't know how else to even put that. It's like just there's so many people that obviously see that as like a humanitarian failure and just a disgusting disgrace on humanity that's happening. And still it's like there's a very select group of people. I'm not saying Jews here even. I'm just saying like there's a group of multicultural group that want this to happen. And it's like that the will of that small group, in my opinion, relative to the people that are disgusted by it. I mean, globally, when you look at the people in the UN that, vote against it and things like that, it's massive. And then the US abstains or supports Israel in these instances. But at least I feel like as an American, and I've spoken to a lot of people consistently from all kinds of different backgrounds, ages, and all that, the desire to support this conflict, the Gaza one, and also in reality, the Iran, I think Iran more than Gaza, but the Gaza conflict is almost zero, literally. I have no love for Hamas either. They're just using their power for their own motives as well. Yeah, I totally agree. But I mean, one thing to consider with that is like what Candace is saying here is like Hamas was something that was propped up by Israel to prevent the West Bank and Hamas being on the same page. And that, and I understand strategically why that made them nervous. So they wanted to break that up. So the PLO or whatever, they're actually still in charge of like the West Bank, as much as that's something to be in charge of. And there's not settlers kicking people out of their houses and shit. So I don't know. There's been different reports on that throughout the war as well, as far as them picking up settlements in the West Bank and then them slowing down with that. So it's like, I mean, the situation is just fucking absolutely dire and fuck. That's why it's impossible from my perspective. And I think we see this a lot. Like my politics typically don't really align with Candace Owens at all. So it's like for us to have such staunch agreement with her on this. And I mean, it sounds like you might even agree that you don't want to go to the war. Like, honestly, if it was a situation of ridding Gaza of Hamas, then I think the attacks on Iran and the attacks in Lebanon are clear evidence that they could have been more pinpointed with their strikes. They leveled Gaza. Like the point was to clear that fucking place out and make it unlivable. So kill a shit ton of people, which they did. Like even the last reports I saw, it was like 80,000 people and a shit ton of women and children, because that's a lot of the. And I understand the conflict there as well. But if you would have had casualties based off some kind of like precise strikes, then I feel like people would have more leeway rather than just, okay, well, you basically fucking leveled the entire fucking area, almost all the hospitals inoperable in the area. It's like, I don't know. It's like I said, it's tough because I will say something that, just put my cards on the table here with the 12-day war, as Trump put it. And I'll see if I can get the tweets together so we can kind of talk about Trump's tweets, because they were fucking something else. Let me see what you say here, Jay. And this entire campaign for Israel is wild. Hamas in Gaza, then Hezbollah in Lebanon, then the Syrian civil war. True, yeah. And then they destroy all the Syria government's remaining air power. Yeah, 100%. That was wild. There's something I'm not gonna say I didn't dive super deep into this whole like 7 countries and 12 years or whatever the fuck it is. But I watched like a TikTok video, so I don't want to rely on it too much because I didn't like really do my due diligence with it. But I did see this TikTok video, as much as that's cringe for me to even reference. I understand that, but it doesn't mean that's false. And I will pull up after we're done here maybe some research so we could back that up and see if there's factuality to it. But essentially, it's just like this plan of creating basically destabilizing the entire Middle East and 7 countries within a certain amount of time. And a lot of those countries were involved in the Iraq war, being one of the countries, and like Afghanistan, all these different countries. They've in Syria, like you just said. Yeah, I mean, I thought about that as well. Bush and his axis of evil. Yeah, 100%. So it's like it's very interesting to kind of see that. I mean, in the case with like Iraq and Iran, Iraq and Afghanistan at the time, the people that attacked were supposedly not Saudi nationals, but a group based in Saudi Arabia or whatever, a terrorist group based in Saudi Arabia at the time of the 9/11 attacks. So we ended up then going into Iraq and Afghanistan and spending fucking over a decade there. So it's like, it's just not something that anybody, I think, that lived through the experience of that is interested in signing up for again, without there being some kind, like, you have to think in that case, which, I mean, we still, like I said, didn't attack the people directly, but whatever. Like I said, well, I guess whatever. I mean, it's really not whatever there, but let's just play with the whole theory with good faith here and assume that there was like somewhat good faith. 10 plus years of a conflict. It's like that put our country in fucking insane, massive fucking debt, massive debt. And then also skyrocketed the wealth disparity in the country because, I mean, who the fuck is involved in fucking weapons contracts and shit? Let's just be honest. All right.
Even just a conspiracy, by the way, if you're like, oh, well,
actually, I mean, you're wrong about this because the vast majority of people coming into the UK illegally are not coming from war-torn countries in the Middle East. They're actually economic migrants. I mean,
okay.
So that's not true.
Okay, but let's connect that. Let's connect that. When you say economic migrants, are we talking about like
people who literally want to come to the UK for a better life?
And when Gaddafi was heading.
Okay, so economic migrants, because there's no fucking industry in these countries because they're being fucking torn apart by things within their own country. Yes, like all countries, but it's like they're constantly going to war with fucking giant fucking superpowers. So it's like it's not just isolated that they want a better life and they can't make fucking a living where they live. Why is that? Which I honestly think he knows, which is disgusting. Tulsi Gabbard's husband and his Humvee type vehicle contracts. Hell yeah. No, this is great for them.
Up Libya, and the country was on the up and up, and he was working with the United Nations. And then all of a sudden he warned that if you collapse Libya and turn it into a place where refugees are escaping, that this is going to be your problem, Europe. He warned that. So then it actually happened.
He's like, if you fuck this up, you're going to have to deal with them. He's like, you don't know what I'm dealing with here. If you fuck up my country and then you fucking sodomize me to death with a fucking bayonet, which is what happened to him, Gaddafi, not what I'm saying should ever happen to fucking me ever in my life, but what happened to him, he's like, these people are going to be your problem and you do not want that problem, England. And then they fucked around and they did what I just said they shouldn't have done to him. And now they're like, well, fuck, England's going to be Muslim in fucking 3 years or whatever the fuck they're talking about all the time. You got Conor McGregor running for fucking office in Ireland. Golly. Government contracts. Facts. No, you're 100% factual on that.
Now we're just calling them economic migrants. We're going to pretend
I'm not
that we had nothing to do.
People coming from Libya.
Okay, where are you speaking about?
Well, for example, I think it was last year, a third of all the people who came into the UK on the border on the small boats illegally, it turned out were young economic migrant males from Albania, which last time I checked, we hadn't invaded. So look, let me pull you back to something you said, which has caused a lot of controversy, which is this issue of dishonorable discharge. Let's take a listen.
I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares? Who cares? Why should you go die in a foreign land?
She's 100% correct.
You now have the benefit of 20.
Well, actually, except you're going to lose your benefits. Except that. Try to get out of the military if you can, honorably, so you can still keep your benefits because you deserve them. But actually, this is getting into a very interesting question. I want to hear her opinion on it. But is it ethical to be a conscientious objector? Is there any point where that's ethical and, or are you just always a fucking draft dodging coward? Is there a thin line to paint there? I don't know. I'm curious. Let me know.
2020. You can see, think about those men and those women who died because they were pitched that they were serving their country because there were weapons of mass destruction, right? They were serving their country because the Taliban, they were serving their country, whatever. And these people gave up their lives. And ask yourselves, for what? And the answer to that question is for the elites. They're like toy soldiers.
When you said that, were you aware of the repercussions if people dishonorably discharged?
So just to put this into context, this is like the Q&A, live Q&A portion at the end of my show. And being facetious, but also being completely honest, that they should begin to consider, and that was somebody asking, what should we do? Like, should we leave the military? Because they also
do you regret
are
saying
recognizing that? No, I don't regret saying that. I don't
But you
regret
know the
having
repercussions if you
people
do
actually think
discharge dishonorably.
Okay, well, I would imagine that the people that are in the military who were going to, if they were going to listen to my podcast and they were going to dishonorably discharge, that they would know the consequences. So it's completely ridiculous. And again, we see this over and over.
Yeah, this is kind of like a fake gotcha. It was a funny statement for one. I mean, if anybody's taking that seriously, and to be completely honest with you, I mean, he needs to lay out exactly what he's talking about. I mean, as far as like losing out on your benefits and things like that, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that somebody do that. But I mean, she's kind of just saying, absolutely say fuck that, is what she's saying.
Again, where people can't answer the broader questions, they try to suddenly peg in, well, you said this one thing. No, the broader conversation that we are having.
Candace, it's not a small thing.
No, let me finish. Let me finish.
You're basically you're encouraging
Piers,
U.S. servicemen and women to dishonorably discharge.
You play a clip, and I'm trying to answer it. You know, you can't do that. You asked a question.
Well, you're trying to downplay it,
and I'm responding. No, I am. No, you're trying to upplay it. Is what the issue is. This is exactly.
I'm just repeating what you said.
No, you're not. You're playing what I said, and I'm responding to it and telling you that the broader piece of that conversation, when you have troops that are now asking that question, is they are recognizing that America is in steep decline, that our military comes back and they are treated like dirt, that a lot of these men, and we're talking about decades, white American males come back and they're told that they're racist and they're treated like crap, that they're white supremacists, that they have a different vision for this country.
I don't know. So I don't see that happening personally. I don't know if that happens on the internet or something. But I'm in the world from time to time. And when I see troops in the world or people in, you know, their military uniform, usually people are like, hell yeah, I appreciate you. I don't really see, it's not like some Vietnam shit where people are like, baby killer, you fucking, I'm sure there are people, you know what I mean? But like, once again, it's another thing where you're choosing to have the argument on the absolute extreme of the issue. It's like, no, most people, you know, send our troops Slim Jims and shit. Like, maybe they don't send Slim Jims, but it's like they want them to get Slim Jims, and they want them to they want the WWE to go out there and do wrestling shows for them, and they want fucking Sabrina Carpenter to go out there and fucking shake her fucking tootsie on the fucking stage and shit for the troops, you know, for the troops. They deserve that. So it's like, I don't agree with her point here.
So why are they dying in these overseas wars for Bibi Netanyahu? Okay, and let me again try to answer that question that I asked you at the beginning, which is, what has Zionism won America?
I'm not going to keep coming back to the same thing.
No, let me finish. Why won't you let me answer that? Why won't you let me actually say what people are recognizing? You come back and there are open borders and you're told that you are racist. Okay, you come back and you're told that you are racist if you don't want open borders. Meanwhile, you're sent overseas to defend Israel's borders. It's a nonsense. And who's funding these open borders? According to Barry Weiss, and I quote, Barry Weiss said this verbatim: the Jewish connection to the refugee is not a conspiracy. That's something that we are very proud of. And she was referencing the organization HIAS, and she says it explicitly, which she said what was started by them in the 1880s, which includes immigrants that have come in like Sergey Brin. They are still the organization that is operating at our border right now, okay? That is problematic, that we have open borders while we continually and routinely are told that we have to defend somebody else's borders, okay? And again, these never-ending wars in the Middle East at the behest of Israel. Bibi Netanyahu is the one that called for Americans to invade Iraq, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, and now Iran, and we've done it. We're told Israel can defend itself, okay? But why do we have currently 2,000 troops that are in Syria under the guise of fighting ISIS? And like I said, we know Israel themselves fund terror-adjacent militants like they did to overthrow Assad. And we're done with the BS of, okay, well, they weren't really involved, Israel, in Afghanistan, because even when we fight those never-ending wars, Israel wins. Everybody knows that our boys were out there in Afghanistan guarding poppy fields, okay? And do you know what happened after we allegedly, quote unquote, lost in Afghanistan? What happened to all those poppy fields, those poppy flowers that our military was guarding? Well, the opioid crisis hit America via the Sackler family, who quite literally built the School of Medicine at Tel Aviv University. So we're just done, okay?
Stay in politics. Stay in politics.
Goddamn, she fucking cooked his ass up. If he didn't want to get exposed, he should have fucking cut her fucking camera off, cut her mic off. She was just exposing the whole fucking thing. If you just came in for this, you need to rewind that shit. Candace Owens was just speaking some fucking truth. Holy shit. They had our boys out there in the fucking poppy fields. What the hell? Our men of honor in the poppy fields? What the fuck is that about? They were taken over by the Taliban again, and then they got the poppy fields back. Now we don't have them again. God damn it! Fuck, send them back over there to get our poppy fields back. Fuck. I need my medication. God damn it!
And there's no way that we're going to go backwards. We're not going to allow you guys to emotionally condition us to go, oh, well, we got to protect Israel because of the Holocaust. It is over. They're imparting a Holocaust. America would like off this crazy train.
Okay, for the benefit of viewers who don't know what I was talking about, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 90, dishonourable discharge can result in forfeiture of all pay and allowances up to 5 years confinement, which is a pretty heavy penalty to pay.
Yeah, I'd want my kids to go to jail before they fought for Israel. I'll say that honestly.
Okay,
I would. I have 3 sons, and I'm going to be honest with you, Piers. I'm glad you told me that consequence. I'd take that consequence any day to them off this crazy train.
Yeah.
Okay, for the
Real quick, poppy pills. Damn it. We need them. Goddamn, I need my fucking concentration Tic Tacs. Give me my Addies. Fuck. I need more fucking meth. Oh, man. I don't do that, guys. If a fucking future employer is watching, if I'm running for Senate in the future, there's a lot of things that I'm saying as a joke right now. But one thing I'm not saying is stop goddamn taking our fucking money and bombing shit. Stop putting our fucking boys in the fucking poppy fields. I'm not bullshitting about that. We were doing that to sell to the Russians and Iranians while also having the opium crisis. Nice. So we get to sell a little bit to them and we get to keep a little for ourselves. We get to keep a lot for ourselves, actually, the American way. So he's actually, I ran it back just a bit just because this was an important part. He's about to read off the punishment, I suppose, or the consequence for being dishonorably discharged from the military. Let's see. And then I'll
benefit of viewers who don't know what I was talking about, under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 90, dishonourable discharge can result in forfeiture of all pay and allowances up to 5 years confinement, which is a pretty heavy penalty to pay.
Yeah, I'd want my kids to go to jail before they fought for Israel. I'll say that honestly.
Okay.
I would. I have
5 years. Yeah, I say take that little bid. I'm going to be honest. Let's just put it on the record. If 5 years, I say take that little bid there. There's a good chance that's less time than you're going to end up spending in the fucking desert. And at least your family gets to come visit you. You might end up in a prison where they let you fuck your wife. Maybe have a few kids in that time that you're not there for the birth of. Or maybe even you get, to go see the birth of them, then you got to go back into your cage for 5 years. Whatever the situation might be, whatever leniency our legal system allows. And I do hope there's some leniency with situations like that, but especially for some shit like fucking, I just didn't want to go to war and fight some shit for Israel. Let me get out and see my kid. And Candace has doubled down on that, and I respect her, and she's a queen for that. This entire interview, she's been an absolute fucking queen. There's been a few things I barely disagreed on. Okay. There's a few things she said I barely disagreed on it. And I said those things at the time. Rewatch the video. I might have cut this into a small video. Maybe you're watching it. This is why Candace and Shapiro ended their professional relationship. That's actually true. But Ben Shapiro is fucking floundering right now. Nobody wants to hear shit from him. And I mean, she was right. She was right, and she was being principled at the time. She was standing on her beliefs, and she was correct in those. And shit, I think she was vindicated over time. She probably has an audience equal to Shapiro independently. I don't know about the Daily Wire and exactly how they're going over there. They have several media figures over there, obviously. He is, just this fucking cannot stand Ben Shapiro. But I think I think conservative people, and I was telling Paul this leading into this election, I've definitely argued on this podcast a lot. I think there's a huge intersection between conservative voters, Trump voters, and liberal people who are like populists, kind of Bernie Sanders people or whatever. A lot of those people are just like honestly come from the working class or poverty, and they want to see solutions to the problems that we have. Let me see here. And they just disagree with kind of like exactly how we solve those problems. But there's certain things on the fringe that I think that we can get an agreement with. When you have a huge coalition of what consists of, mostly real working class people, I think that's when you start to see the message get across. Like I give some of MAGA credit for on this, where it's like there was definitely a pushback on the war situation. There's an anti-war voice happening at that time. There were some people that kind of fell back in line like fucking pussies, and that's what Candace didn't do, though. That's what Candace didn't do. She comes out cleaner than him for sure. Yeah, I definitely think so. And she has some crazy shit that I've seen her get into or whatever. And like I said, there's a lot of conversations I've seen where I'm not necessarily like agreeing with her on it, but I think she makes her case well, and I love watching her make it every single time and staring into her beautiful brown eyes.
I have 3 sons, and I'm going to be honest with you, Piers. I'm glad you told me that consequence. I take that consequence any day to them being sent back over in a coffin because they died for Israel. So.
Okay, but I think the one thing you're missing.
Opinion.
Look, I come from a big military family, a lot of military in my family, and a lot of people fighting wars on behalf of the United States are not doing it because they think Bibi Netanyahu wants them to. They're doing it because
some of them do that, and they write into my show and I answer the question.
But many of them won't, and they might be offended by you suggesting that's the only reason they're doing it.
And they can watch your show, and they can be offended all they want, but I think it's more offensive the way that our military is treated, the veterans are treated, and the gaslighting that takes place when we're told that we have to defend everybody's borders. But
I actually think America treats its veterans better than almost any country in the world.
I mean, this has always been an open conversation, and I'm just saying that if my boys were being drafted to fight this war in Iran, I would be like, you know what, honey, take the other option. And that's not because it's cowardice. It's because when you sign up for the military.
Okay, but I would say that the pilots,
you are pledging that you are doing something that is going to better your country.
Candace,
and like I said, our country has been in steep decline since we have been part of this foreign policy, which is just whatever Israel wants.
You made that point, but what I was saying to you is,
that point is totally evergreen, and you can't contend with it. That's why you don't want to fucking even talk about it.
The only people so far that have been involved from the American military were the extraordinarily courageous and skillful pilots who flew these B-2 bombers and attacked the nuclear sites and got back safely. So there's been no troops on the ground committed at all, no declaration of war by the United States. We can quibble. Listen, I don't disagree with you. You bomb somewhere, you probably are at war with them. But there is no official declaration of war, just as Trump, when he took out Soleimani and Baghdadi. And
that was just a complete admission that he's arguing on a basic semantic kind of like framing. That is bullshit that he doesn't even like believe. He's saying like, yeah, I basically agree. What the fuck was the whole conversation before this about? We're 28 minutes in.
He attacked Syria and so on. He didn't declare war on those places. And actually, it turned out that the apocalyptic warnings of those actions never materialized. So we shall see. I can't let you go without asking. Let me ask you just quickly about the Tucker Ted Cruz debate. What did you make of that?
Hopefully, you don't live in a big city.
Fantastic. It is finally the debate that needed to happen in America, because a part of this nonstop policy is this belief, as you said, Ted Cruz, that if we just do whatever Israel wants, that God's going to bless you. And it's quite ironic because it comes from Protestants, and their normal argument is that the reason why we had to have this fracture in the church was because of indulgences. There's nothing more indulgent than I'm going to be blessed if I just do whatever Israel says. And so because we are finally having that spiritual conversation, which is more important, I suspect there's going to be major changes in the United States going forward. And that is why you're seeing this fracture in the base already.
Tucker, according to Donald Trump, Tucker rang Trump to apologize for some of the more strident rhetoric he's used against him recently. Are you done with Donald Trump, or could you see a way that you would end up perhaps voting for him? Oh, you can't run again, obviously, but would you support him publicly again?
So I want to be clear. I don't regret voting for Donald Trump above Kamala. I think he was the better candidate, certainly a better candidate above Joe Biden. But what I will say is that he's been a chronic disappointment. And I feel embarrassed that I told people to go vote for him because this wasn't going to happen, and it is happening. But I just think that the picture of politics in America is going to look very differently because of his actions. So.
I think that's fucking so reasoned and just beautifully put by such a beautiful queen. She's 100% correct.
I don't know where we go from here. I really don't. But this is not the candidate that I voted for.
If it turns out that his instincts were right, that by doing what he did, it brings Iran to the negotiating table and they do a deal on their nuclear plans, would you admit that you were wrong in that circumstance?
Yeah. I will always admit when I'm wrong. Anybody that listens to my podcast knows that. It just so happens to be that, especially if I come on to the Piers Morgan show and I make some predictions, that it ends up that I'm right. So I'm feeling lucky, but I will of course admit I'm wrong if that is the result.
Candace, always good to have.
I think there's one issue again with that framing because fucking Piers is such a fucking dishonest cunt. I think we're deep enough into the stream for me to say cunt now, and I think that's what Piers Morgan is. A lot of the times, sometimes makes a good point, but it's just like that entire interview was a complete fucking cuck for Israel and shit, where he was getting talked down by the beautiful queen Candace Owens, and just, I mean, when you're making the argument on a side that is, like I said, you're arguing for something that's just completely reprehensible. It's like, where do you even go? I feel like there's a lot of times I see these people making these arguments, and you can kind of see where they're like, okay, I kind of have to suspend my critical thinking here to make this argument, make this counter argument. I mean, I do see Piers go back and forth. So, I mean, how much he holds those opinions, I guess, maybe is in question. But it just fucking looks like you cucked out for Israel with Candace Owens, and he just made it an easy, nice little fucking sparring session for her, which I didn't mind seeing. But let's see. Okay, so this is Glenn Beck. He getting old as hell. My boy is fucking snowy white hair. I mean, we'll listen to a little bit of this, I guess. So these people aren't talking to each other at all through this whole video. Is that real? Okay, I don't think I'm gonna listen to this much Glenn Beck. I'm gonna keep it real. Bill O'Reilly, I already told you guys at the front of the video, we're not listening to this asshole who fucking simped for the fucking Iraq war on Fox News for fucking 10 years while fucking allegedly molesting people in the fucking office. Fucking sickos, man. But Glenn Beck, I guess we'll listen to a little bit just because I want to be fair, although we did get the interview from the title. So, I mean, I'd never promised people I'd listen to this motherfucker. I mean, I do have other shit. I'm just trying to get it at the beginning. My bad, y'all. It was, you may not agree with everything Trump does, but he's definitely not still trying to figure out which side of the stage to exit. Yeah, I'll say that, honestly, as far as like the question that he asked, as far as like, would you ask somebody that's totally against it at this point? And I do think Trump has been a pretty big disappointment. I don't agree with a lot of what Trump did, but I was honestly open. I had plenty of debates that were not necessarily pro-Trump, but I was more neutral in that. I didn't think that any of the options were really acceptable for presidency. And I definitely think how the Democrats handled the entire process was completely corrupt. And I mean, they were trying to essentially usher in and pick their specific candidate. We should have had an open primary for that, and we should have actually seen the ideas laid out on the table and had the will of the Democratic constituency actually represented on that stage, which we didn't. And then you actually seen, in my opinion, a regression to the center from the Democrats, because that's the only people they felt like they actually needed to fight for in the scenario, where people were straight up fucking conservatives. They were fucking pandering to fucking Dick Cheney and all that kind of shit. So it's like, that was their fucking coalition. They're like, look at our coalition, we have Dick Cheney. Oh, okay. Meanwhile, you're saying, like, every day it's like, Joe Biden's really upset with Bibi Netanyahu. He's really getting pissed off in his office. But they was like, okay, yes, I will send you those bombs. Or it's, no, I won't send you those bombs. Okay, the media kind of dies down on it. Okay, bombs end up getting sent the next week. It was you. So yeah, I mean, but so to answer that question though, so I will actually commend Trump if he ends up completely pulling out of the situation and finding a way out. But one thing that I will say is, I don't think that we should overshadow the fact that those bombs were shot off and, there wasn't any kind of congressional approval. And it was something that could have obviously we all felt like we were kind of standing on the edge there. So it obviously could have led to a longer conflict and something more drawn out. So if he ends up avoiding catastrophe based off of the actions of an ally that we've enabled and then his own actions on top of that, yes, I will commend that. But it's like this. Like, think about it like this. It's like if somebody's driving recklessly with you in the passenger seat and they're on the highway and they're driving recklessly and they almost get in a car accident, and then they swerve out of the way and then they stabilize the vehicle. Like, am I going to be like, holy shit, we almost fucking died. Thank you for fucking like stabilizing the wheel and all that. But am I also going to be like, I don't want to be in the car with this motherfucker ever again because he makes irrational, crazy ass decisions? Yes, both of those things are going to happen. So that would be kind of like a similar situation in this instance. I don't think you needed, just because let's just say a deal with Iran comes of this, that isn't evidence of the necessity of the attack on Iran to get this deal. If you feel what I'm saying. Like, just because we come through a deal doesn't mean that that's the only way we could have reached that point. And, I think that this also sets a really scary kind of precedent. And going forward, I mean, are those people, are like Iran, even if they do come to the table and deal with us, I mean, they're probably just going to be much more covert with their operations going forward and much less open. Even if it forces them to be open to a certain degree, they're probably they're gonna probably want to fucking create nukes now. Like, let's just keep it real. So that was that. And then LMA, ironically, I just mentioned Beck's punk ass. First time I've seen him in years. Yeah, I've seen him one other time, I think, on maybe even Piers Morgan. I don't see him often. I remember when they fired him from Fox News, and he was fucking honestly disgraced, rightfully so. And here he is. He's back, and he's still disgraced. But Piers Morgan uncensored
there, and we'd pound them into sand until they surrendered. But I don't understand why we're having debates here on actions that Barack Obama took, and nobody really said anything about it. They weren't screaming for an act.
Okay, so more people talk to people about politics. Most of the people that you will find that are into politics and shit like that, and I've been into politics to a certain degree for a long time, based off my mom was always really into politics. But most people that you talk to about when they got into politics, it is like around post Obama. So it's like the framing of this is just, it's not. I don't want to say that it's necessarily dishonest, but honestly, it is, because it's Glenn Beck. He has a track record. We could say it's dishonest, but or possibly just like kind of just ill-informed or just not using critical thought. But it's like there's a huge influx. Just look at the voting numbers, for fuck's sake. So yeah, it's that
act of war. I know this is a very bad situation, and I hope to God. I mean, I'm glad that Donald Trump is our president, because I wouldn't have had the balls to do it. I think
put this motherfucker on the front lines immediately. If we go to war, I want to see fucking Glenn Beck with a helmet on, like it's fucking doomsday and we're about to storm the beaches of Normandy. All this fucking, I wouldn't have had the balls to do it.
It was the right thing to do, but I wouldn't have had the balls to do it.
Well, it's really interesting, because I know that historically, I mean, look, I'm not going to pick on you for this, but I happen to be the editor. No, it'll be obvious what I'm saying, but I was editor of the Daily Mirror newspaper, one of the big national papers in the UK, for many years, and I campaigned vociferously on the front page after front page against the Iraq war. And it was particularly contentious in the UK because we were the Labour supporting newspaper and Tony Blair was a Labour Prime Minister. So it was a huge sort of deal over here. And I know that you initially supported the Iraq war, and then afterwards you later accepted that had been a mistake, which, again, is part of your strength, I think.
I think, Piers, you can't silence people when they're wrong, because hopefully they're on the road to becoming right.
Yes.
But
okay. Agreed. You can't silence people when they're wrong. But when people are wrong and they're advocating for war, that's a big thing. That's a big thing. You gotta overcome those voices, or I don't know what the fuck he's suggesting there. Let them figure it out. Let them bomb a few fucking villages. Figure it out. Let them come to terms with that. Figure out. Everybody has their own path to the truth. Piers?
You only get that if you have a debate. And I will tell you that I was for Afghanistan. I was a very big, war hawk. Let's go in and just do it. Let's do it. I'm not that way anymore because I've seen the pattern. It doesn't.
But I am advocating for this. I was a war hawk. Back then, I loved it. Now, yes, I'm advocating for this at all cost. And anybody that does it has the biggest balls, and Glenn Beck will lick them.
Work out. America needs to mind its own business. We can't export what we have. I mean, I have hopes for the Middle East. I have hopes for Iran. I pray for the people in Iran. They're a very big danger, but the one thing, again, I go back to Donald Trump. I don't think he's being duped. In 2016, maybe. I mean, he has told me he didn't really know what he was up against. He knows what he's up against now. He hates war, hates it. As much as he loves tariffs, he hates war. He has told me eye to eye about how he has redesigned, or he had to rebuild our nuclear arsenal. And in a fashion that I've never seen Donald Trump, he said, Glenn, it can never be used. It is horrifying what can be done now. I know I helped rebuild it. It can never be used. He hates nuclear war. He hates regular war.
Yeah.
And I think he really believes he did the right thing, and I don't think he's being duped by it.
No, and it's interesting because I know that you were hoping he didn't do what he did. Now that he's done it, and obviously it's incredibly early days, and none of us can be sure what is going to happen. And I don't.
Hey, in some of the war conversations I've had too, I want to be clear. Like sometimes there is a situation where the other side is going to be too willing to escalate at this point because of where you've brought it. So I do understand sometimes, the toothpaste is out the tube, whatever phrase you like more. So it's like, I do understand we might be at that point, depending on how the ceasefire between Iran and Israel plays out. We've already seen definite issues with it and how fragile it is. But yeah, I don't,
I wouldn't even attempt to guess. But I certainly think that Trump's intentions were well-intentioned. I think he has said for many years that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. And he genuinely believed that enriching their uranium stocks from 3.5% to 60% was a dangerous escalation that could only be heading one way. And so he's taken the same action that he did when he took out Soleimani or Baghdadi, when he attacked Syria, when he dropped big bombs in Afghanistan. He's done things strategically as he sees it without actually committing large number of American troops on the ground.
You also have to look at this. Every single president since Clinton has said this. Okay. Iran has killed more Americans as a nation than I think any other nation has. They've been an enemy. Every single president has said they cannot have a nuclear weapon. I don't want to go to war with Iran. I don't want to
go to war with anybody. Why would we want to provoke war with anybody? It's just a very plain, human stance to take. It literally comports with basically anything aside from imperialism or something like that has some energy around conquest in it. But it's if you're a nationalist, you can be anti-war. You don't have to fucking want to go to war with people. You may really want to protect your land, and I think that is a noble cause and potentially a noble reason to go to war if it does come to that in some instances. But it's that's not what we're talking about at all, and nobody can even make that argument that that's what we're talking about. That may be the kind of existential threat that Israel thinks that they're up against, but in reality, one, I don't think that's been substantiated. Most of this over the past 2 years has seemed brought on by Israel, to be honest, and manufactured in a lot of ways. It does seem like we're being kind of led along on, another country's kind of quest, for dominance in the region. It's just completely unnecessary for our country to be involved in that and be funding it when we have clear issues domestically and we have clear issues globally that actually are righteous causes to try to solve, and we're pouring resources in a world where there's constant scarcity of resources globally, we're pouring them into these fucking wars of, I don't even know. Are they wars of conquest? Because ultimately, I mean, is Israel gonna have control? Who's gonna have control over Iran if there's some kind of like regime change? And how does that ultimately benefit the countries involved in this war? You know, as like, does it have some kind of like actual material benefit for us? I'm struggling to see that. That's why, look, hands up, don't shoot. Clint Beck, front lines, brother. If this shit goes to war, you're on the front lines. None of this fucking hands up shit. You're gonna have to fight some Russians and some Iranians. You have to get your fucking hands dirty and stop talking about this shit.
Any of this. However, when you talk to a B-2 bomber, which I did over the weekend, they have been running this particular run for 15 years plus.
Airplane.
We built in White Sands, we built a model of that reactor. This bomb that we dropped, we're the only ones with it in the world. It was made for those reactors, specifically for those reactors. It is so accurate, it can hit the top of a pop can or a Coke can from 50,000 feet. It had to go into a 10 by 10 foot vent. They have been running this over and over again. That's not Donald Trump. That's the American policy. We know that these people are serious when they say they're going to burn.
What was the American policy that fucking weapon he just described was sick as fuck? Which, I mean, I'll agree with that. That's really dope technology to have. Imagine if we put the same amount of thought into things that actually matter, like getting people clean water, just an example. But even other than that, there's plenty of things. But you're saying you could drop a fucking missile on a Coke can? What the hell? And then there's mixed reports where people are saying that it was extremely successful and destroyed their nuclear program. And of course, that's what they came out and said at first, like, oh, we obliterated them. Once again, if I have the Trump tweets at the end of this, then I'll pull those up. But they're fucking comical. But it actually is pretty fucking wild and scary that this is our president speaking. But that's even more crazy to me than him saying the fuck word, to be honest. Free the fuck word.
First, the Jews in the Islamic fiery furnace, and then America. We're the great Satan. They have been a threat of ours for a long time. I wish we could have negotiated our way, but it didn't happen. So now we're here. Now what do we do?
Well, as we're talking, I'm just going to read this to you. Reuters and AFP are reporting explosions over Doha. So we're talking Monday evening UK time, Monday afternoon your time in the States. Iranian media saying Iran is attacking US bases in both Qatar and Iraq. And this follows BBC and Fox News reporting credible and imminent threats of Iranian missile attacks on US-run air bases. So that's just breaking as you and I are talking. But clearly that would be a significant escalation. If Iran is targeting US air bases now in the Middle East, what do you think that means as we progress forward?
I don't know. I've been saying to my audience, pray for peace, but prepare for war. This is a war that I think is coming.
You get him sized for a fucking helmet right now. Put a gun in this man's hands. Glenn Beck better be from the United States. I swear to God. If I look this shit up and this motherfucker's from Canada, if he's from Canada, I have no faith in the media in this country at all. So help me God. But I'm gonna look that up right now.
One way or another. I mean, look at the state of Europe, look at the state of England, look at the state of America. I mean, this is a war with Islamists, not Muslims, Islamists, that is going to happen at some point. I think we're at the beginning of a 50-year war with Islamists. And it's disturbing to me. And the reason why is we're not clear. None of our countries, Donald Trump will, but none of our countries will even name what we're against. They won't say it. You know, what I complimented you for doing on this show is actually saying what the truth is and letting all sides. Our governments are silencing, and I think it's because they're afraid. But it's a war that is absolutely coming. And the problem is, I remember I said in the Oval Office during the
just update, he's from Washington. So basically Canada, that counts. And then it just seems like a crazy thing to skip over. Our governments are silencing that. And I think they're scared. Hey, give me liberty or give me death. Benjamin Franklin, what the fuck? Someone who sacrifices their fucking freedom for security deserves neither and should die like a fucking coward. Benjamin Franklin as well. So come on.
Gulf War, the Iraqi War, with George Bush, and he was reading me the Riot Act because I wasn't happy about the way things were going. And he said to me, I said, you know, you got an election coming up, and what do you think these guys are going to do? And he said something, and he tried to make me feel better, and this actually made me feel horrible. He said, Glenn, don't worry about it. No matter who wins, when they sit behind this desk, they'll be advised by the same voices, and they'll realize they have no other options. I left that office thinking, then why do we elect a president? What is happening? We have to break this cycle. Hopefully, this we're not being lulled into something or pulled into something that is, you know, long planned. Hopefully,
He's like, but if I could play stupid for long enough, I can keep cashing these checks.
We can end this quickly and return to some normalcy in all of our countries. But we have to face the truth.
Yeah, I think I completely concur with you. And like I said, whilst I can absolutely understand why Donald Trump did what he did, and while I think there's a compelling argument that Iran was fast accelerating its way to a nuclear weapon, which everybody basically agrees, apart from Iran and its allies, would be a very bad thing for the world. Once you do strike in the way that the United States struck with these bunker buster bombs, you cannot then control the way the narrative plays out. You don't know how the receiving end of that is going to respond.
I think that that our side is hoping that they are so weakened that they don't have much fight left in them. I would hope that. However, if I said on Friday or Saturday when it happened, that if somebody did that to us and just blew up one of our bases in the United States, here in our continental U.S., we would declare that's a declaration of war.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
And why would we expect them not to feel that way? The only hope is they're so weakened that it can end quickly.
Yeah, I don't think
you can.
I mean, I think this attempt to try and pretend it's not a declaration of war,
which he did earlier. And he fucking soft played it in the middle where he's like, it probably is. Yeah, like I said, it's crazy to even act like it's not. You're 100% engaged in a war now. Is the other side going to have to just pull out because you're just too powerful of a country to actually engage in war with for them at this time? Maybe. But I mean, like, have you made fucking even deeper fucking wounds and rivalries between those, not just the countries, but the people? You know what I mean? Like, you start to validate the rhetoric.
I don't think that flies. I mean, I posted on X, this is America saying it's at war with Iran, right? I mean, you drop 30,000-pound bombs all over the place on nuclear sites in a foreign country.
Except
it's a declaration
we've done that
war.
before. Except we've done that
just to have an argument. He acted like he didn't say it
before in other cases, and nobody's had this reaction. But it's not Iran and Israel. For some reason, that's just totally different for everybody.
I mean, what's strange about that whole thing is if you go back into the not too distant past of Iran and Israel, before the revolution in 79, they got on pretty well. It's like a lot of these relationships have been contaminated in the last 40, 50 years.
So I'm doing a show Thursday, Piers, that I'm glad you brought this up because I was just talking to my producers about the direction I want to go in, and that is look at Europe today, look at England today, then look at Iran 1977, 1975. Look, nobody was wearing hijabs, nothing like that. And in 1979, it's over, it's lights out. We can't ignore the poison of Islamists in our own society. We all think.
Okay, respectfully though, if you have a large group of people that move from another country and they want to wear fucking hijabs to, you know, please their religion, who gives a fuck? Have a more persuasive argument culturally, so where you can either convert those people to whatever maybe you feel like actually is representative of your culture. But I don't, depending if you have a multicultural country, I don't know if that's not. There just might be more of that because you're destabilizing these regions, and people from those regions are now moving to these Western areas, you know, because they're more stable. Understandably, they have families. They want to be able to provide the best possible life that they can for their kid. And I'm sure at some point you just sit in the fucking rubble and you're like, you know what, I could just move to England, and you know, maybe that would be nice. It's gonna be better than this. So, you know, I just feel like at the end of the day, it kind of like, you got to look at it in full context, this whole conversation in full context. It all is relevant at all times. It all feeds into each other. And, you know, you just can't look at it as these like independent in the vacuum situations.
That it's not going to happen. It can't happen, but it can. All we have to do is make the distinction between Islamist and a Muslim. One is our enemy. The other is a practitioner of.
They could both be wearing hijabs. That's the thing. You're not really making the argument that the people in England or wherever are like terrorists or bad or shouldn't be a part of the culture
Of a religion.
I mean, I would expand that to say it's extremism, right? Extremism of any kind should be condemned by all right-thinking people, because extremism is never the right way, just by the very
But when are we going to do that?
By the very definition of the word.
Okay, so I hear what they're saying here, but it's like, you can't ban. This motherfucker has a show called Uncensored. How you can't ban extreme views. People will have them. I would say, you know, extreme actions, you know, those can be bad. Those could be hate crimes and things like that. But yeah, extreme views, no. I think, you know, generally you should have once again, like a persuasive argument that your culture's making, where, hey, this culture doesn't value those kind of behaviors, and we don't reward those kind of behaviors. Maybe in this culture you can make an argument that we do. Like if the rhetoric that I was spewing was more divisive or whatever, more fucking crazy or racist, I might be able to find that audience easier or whatever. You feel what I'm saying out there? So it's just, you kind of just can't make that.
You are an extremist.
Isn't that in some ways exactly what Donald Trump did? Took a clear line. We've had president after president say, we're not going to let this stand. You
can make an argument. The motherfucker Donald Trump took an extremist kind of path to the presidency. I mean, he was definitely kind of running further right, I would say, than where his party had been. So, and I think that was effective. I mean, and once again, he took that ideology, and I think this was a really smart part in the service that he did to conservatism, in my opinion, is that, you know, he took that ideology and he did make a persuasive argument to the masses, and he ended up winning the popular vote, which is crazy for a Republican. He did that for a reason, because he put forth some kind of like positive feeling and persuasive kind of charismatic argument to the people. And honestly, at that point, after the alternative had tried to run the Crypt Keeper in his opposition, it's like he kind of just had to make a barely persuasive fucking argument. I mean, he just had to be like, hey guys, I'm live, I can count to fucking 6, and I know all my kids' names. So it's like, oh well, fuck that guy, I guess gets to be president at that time. And who the fuck could trust the Democratic Party at that time? They had a lot of ground to make up, because after they were willing to make that decision to protect people's jobs and positions, or the image of Joe Biden or whatever, that man's image is absolutely fucking tarred because of how that shit was handled. So anyway, we'll get back into this.
Does it, and now he's the extremist? I don't know. I think he's standing up for what he believes is coming.
Glenn, what's fascinating, watching the conservative right in the last few weeks has been fascinating. for the real schism that's been developing now. What do you make of that? There's always been disagreement, but never quite, it seems to me, on such implacable levels as we're seeing right now, where people are really one way or the other.
I've never seen anything. I'm friends with Ted Cruz. I'm friends with Tucker Carlson. I like both of them. I know Donald Trump. I don't know Elon Musk, but I like both of them. Stop making me choose. I don't think this is helpful for the Republic. We can disagree on things, but to have these arguments that we're having, I mean, I'm sorry. I've known Candace Owens for a long time. I don't know what happened to Candace.
She started telling the fucking truth. You're hiding behind shit like a bitch. Not even like you're like, I was totally against it, but I support it. And he has bigger balls than I do for doing it. That's literally how this guy started out this interview. Was one of the first things he said was, hey, I completely opposed it, but damn, he has bigger balls than I do, so he was able to do it. And we'll see where we go through this. No, it's okay to like disagree and say, hey, that's something I don't agree with how that was carried out. We're about to shut it down on this guy, by the way. I have other shit to get to before I hop off here tonight, so we just can't keep on running with these fucking, just broken records.
Off on a different planet now. To deny Mangala and everything else is truly horrifying. But there's a lot of people that I disagree with that I can still have conversations with. I think this is in many ways intentional. We're all being driven to these extremes, and it's either you are this or you are that, and there's nothing in between. That's not real life. All life has nuance. There's no way to navigate. There's no way to defend ourselves, our culture, if we all must be 100% this or 100% that.
And you know what? And I genuinely believe
that's the first thing that made sense that he said all fucking night. All right, let's just get out of here. I can't keep on continuing with the shit. We're an hour and fucking 40 minutes in, damn near, with Piers Morgan fuckery. Over here, fake simping for a war. Dude, you put on another episode, he's gonna be telling you that he's fucking not for it. And what the hell are y'all doing over there? Let's see here. What else do we have to show tonight? Oh yeah, this right here.
I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you. And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia.
Yeah, I'm excited. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Yeah, so that's all interesting. All these conflicts, like trying to balance them all at this point in the presidency, of conflicts that, honestly, promised were going to be closed down in the first day. I think anybody reasonable thought that was absolutely a bonkers promise to make, but you just got to look at it and still look and say, hey, you didn't deliver on that, fuckwad. And shit has only escalated in reality. At this point, we still don't really have a close to the Israel-Gaza conflict, bludgeoning genocide. No accountability there. And we got the Iranian conflict that's really blossomed since he's been in office. So I think, we're just, it's been an absolute shit show. And then we have stuff like this. It's just getting out of hand, guys. This shit is getting absolutely out of hand. The good people of Palestine do not deserve this shit. Nobody deserves this. Our ears don't. I'm sorry, but it's like, this is what we deserve. We funded this. This motherfucker is probably fucking intern at fucking APAC. She's so heavy, yeah, she give me iron dome. When I finish, I'ma tell her, hey, pack your shit and go home. My Israeli plug got kosher drugs, I'm texting him shalom. Could this be the promised land? Cause when I rap, man, you know I own. He actually is fucking spazzing on that shit, though, to be honest. That's the issue. The issue is then now when the propaganda comes in the form of fucking Israeli drill rappers. And then they're gonna give us the fucking. Are we please gonna get the Palestinian fucking record that they're sending back? The problem is that's when it gets kind of crazy. Now we have outright war, nations at war. We're seeing diss tracks happen here. The other side can't diss back though, because the casualties are so lopsided, which on O Block, it would never be quite so lopsided to the point of what we're talking about the Palestinian people. You can't hop on the diss track when you're being starved and you don't have electricity. So I think that's the kind of honestly lays out the argument right there why the shit needs to end. If the ops can't fire up a diss track in their living room in peace, they can't fucking put the camera up in the hospital because they have no idea if a fucking bomb's gonna crash through the ceiling to, lay down some lyrics to send it back to their ops. That's a problem. That's a power dynamic that we can't sit here and allow these Chief Keef raps to happen.
If you step to us, we gonna take away your right to exist. I'm like the idea, the way I'm breaking up these bricks. And you're who, if you fuck with our crew, pull up with them nukes, man, we really gonna harm you.
From the river to the sea, I'm a baller, can't you see? Money flow like River Jordan, and it's all coming to me. Call me APAC. The way you watch me stack up my racks, pockets heavy, travel heavy, holy lands, I'll make it back. Jews and Gentiles hand in hand, we're in.
All right, Jews and Gentiles not hand in hand. I'm not hand in hand with these guys. I'll be hand in hand with some other Jews that I like. I'll be hand in hand with Seth Rogen any day. And I disagree with him on some shit too. He says some dumb shit I'd like to talk to him about. But Pineapple Express, we go hand in hand whenever. It's not even a big deal. Seth Rogen is cool. He's the main one that comes to mind. I know Adam Sandler. Matter of fact, fuck Seth Rogen. Adam Sandler, he's the fucking man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Jews are cool. Jerry Seinfeld, he took a minor to that fucking award show. I saw pictures. It's alleged. I don't know exactly what happened. I didn't read into this whole situation. So don't sue me like fucking Ethan Klein over there. But I am just saying, I can't co-sign all the crazy shit, but I will say Adam Sandler, I never heard of him doing any shit like that. He made 51st States. He made fucking Mr. Deeds. The motherfucker made Big Daddy. That shit was fire. He's fucking solid. This shit, on the other hand, although like I said, I will say Joe Dirt, the Israeli Joe Dirt he did go crazy on the beat. And he did come with the crazy flow. So it's like, if we would have met under different circumstances, I could have supported it.
Oh, so grand, Israeli soldiers, leave your mark, Israeli soldiers, like the dark star of David, shine your light. I adore, protect the night. I love Israel with all my life. Disagree with me, you got the knife. I'm fucking love Israel. Yo, I cut my dealer up, cause his dad wrote to the Hague. What the hell am I gonna go to get placed? Yo.
Everyone gonna feel it.
We need to drop drugs in this fucking state immediately. There's not enough. I don't know what the fuck. There was no drugs involved in the making of this. I guarantee that. Like, seriously, these people were completely fucking sober-minded. Motherfuckers were, but still, when I say sober-minded, that does not mean of a sound, rational state of mind. And I want to just be clear, as a Gentile, we are not hand in hand with the fuckery. Adam Sandler, I'm hand in hand with the movie Big Daddy. Not calling him Big Daddy, that's weird, but I'm saying like hand in hand with that movie that he made, fucking absolute fire. And honestly, he made some shitters. Don't even get twisted. He has also, made some shit that might have been a fucking, a undercover bomb being set into our eyeballs and our subconscious that should have never been watched. That Jack and Jill movie, whatever the fuck was going on with that. Like, Adam Sandler definitely, there's always some shit to talk about, but compared to this, I mean, let's hear it. Chief Keef, the influence, the O Block influence is fucking just incredible. They're over here in Israel and they really are fucking standing on the block.
Everyone gonna feel it. Everyone gonna feel it. I'ma fuck this bitch up. Netanyahu, Zelensky looks like God too. Murkowski is a Hindu. Now blood pouring like fondue. Now stop killing us brown dudes. Calm
shoes, stains and no sand dunes. Now, what did Nav do? I robbed the plug like 50 times, so I defund the FBI. Your eyes are blue, or am I blind? The Ayatollah will change your mind. Cause you stealing what you want, and stolen land is what you flaunt. Now tell your hogs you better get got, cause Palestine is not done.
Okay. Artistically, the angle they just took, I mean, it's completely fucking over my head. So now we're just gonna run it. They had Bilal Muhammad come through with the fucking verse at the end, and fucking, I don't know, he came through with the Palestinian perspective for the final verse. All right, it took a risk.
Crazy.
Yeah, he was like, holy shit, I'm glad I wasn't on camera for that one. IDF definitely knocking all of our doors in tonight. I'm gonna try to get it uploaded, but we'll see if the fucking internet doesn't shut off. Wow. Well, you know what? Fucking 10 out of 10. Just appreciate that they did that. They made that happen. Holy moly. They risked their life. So they risked their life to get that footage, and I think we should appreciate it. The lyrics that they wrote, they might be, thrown underneath the prison for that one. And I'm not saying that that's not deserved in some ways. Definitely the second guy. He should be taken off the streets. If you took him off the streets, then I think you would be probably making Israel a safer place. But the other two guys, they just listened to a lot of Chief Keef, and they wanted to make a rap song about Palestine versus Israel, and they did it. Like I said, that is exactly what they did, and it's out there. We listened to it. So holy moly, you made it over here to Florida, boys. Good job. Dropped a bomb on us. Here you go.
Sam Politic.
That's how we feel. All right. So I think we could do this as the last thing, because some of these other things I could talk about on tomorrow's podcast. So just know tomorrow I'm gonna do another live around 9:00. I'm trying to test out these times, see what works best with catching the most audience. Tonight has been pretty honestly slow, but Jay, I do appreciate you coming through here, man. You really, had a lot of epic points and added a lot to the conversation. I honestly appreciate it. If anybody ever wants to hit that link, you can hop in here and be involved in the conversation. Although I love to have y'all in here just watching the content, and I do appreciate it. So no pressure on that. I say every time, I know Gates Open Media, I'm excited to see this man come back. I miss him dearly on the streams, and go check him out if you'd like. He had just a medical issue, so he wasn't doing the streaming as much, but every time I'd hop on that goddamn stream, he'd be like, get on. That'd be the whole show. As long as I was in the comments, he's like, get your ass on. So no pressure like that. I'm sitting here vibing and chilling. And we're going to learn a little bit about how the Liver King feels about Joe Rogan. The Liver King, man. Liver King, what can be said about the Liver King that quite honestly hasn't already been said? Fucking psychopath lunatic for creating a image around eating raw meat, like just right there. Is that just not already enough to say, holy fuck, what's wrong with that guy? In my opinion, it absolutely is. So he has had some sustainability, it seems, on the internet, and he is, even after this whole steroid thing, and I did watch, I don't know if I finished watching the documentary or not, but I definitely watched a bit of it, and just about of all his fucking satanic rituals that he fucking does with his family. Sick shit, in my opinion. But to each his own, and I think, hey, if you want to eat raw meat and fucking convince people online to fucking eat raw lamb chops, you're a sick fuck for that. But I think, hey, in America, everybody should be able to live their life. Just let them be. But what you can't do is you can't go to Austin, Texas, and start talking crazy about my man Joe Rogan. Just plain and simple. The FBI will come down on your ass for that shit. He is affiliated. The man did endorse Trump. He might have Secret Service himself. He might have an outfit around him. I'm not sure. of highly trained combatants. If anybody wants to try Joe Rogan, I would just say you probably got more to worry about than the 5'4" man that you're trying to attack. You know, you might have some Navy SEALs flanking him. I'm just saying, you know, tread lightly with Joe Rogan. And especially in Austin, Texas. The man is the king of Austin, Texas. People know that. He went there, fucking flipped the whole game, and it is what it is. Even if you disagree with a lot of shit he says or fucking platforms or shit that happens on his podcast, which I am a person that I do disagree with a lot of shit that he says, even though I've been a long time viewer of his show, I don't watch it as consistently because sometimes I do find it to just be kind of like meta conversations about the podcast or himself or like the situations that he has, which I get though to a certain degree, where it's like those are the shit those are the things that are happening in his life. So when he ends up talking about instances with people talking crazy about, I mean, yeah, if you're gonna address it, I guess, you know, podcast isn't a bad place, but yeah, having fucking people come on and just be like, no, the Consumer Finance Bureau, we gotta fucking get rid of that shit, bro. It's like, that shit's not good. That shit is not good, and it's really fucking shit up. And honestly, you know, consumer finance, it seems like it's for the consumer, but it's not. Are you sure? Yeah, no, it's not. Okay, cool. Well, let's just move on and not even fucking, you know, interrogate that very obvious fucking stupid statement. So those are the issues I've had with Joe Rogan to get into this, but I don't think you should be in Austin, Texas trying to take his life. You crazy steroid fucking juiced up psycho. Honestly, come on.
Yeah. Because you don't really just do that for the camera. You know, you gotta kind of earn that kind of companionship, that love, that loyalty.
Woo!
Yeah. King time with my friend. Absolutely.
This is a man whose wife is leaving him. I don't know that for sure. I haven't read anything that says that, but I'm just already I've gotten the vibe. This is a man that's probably drunk on alcohol, and his wife is probably serving him divorce papers. I'm thinking, and the reason you hug a family dog like that is because your wife is leaving, and she may or may not take that dog, and that's the last vestige of the family. So you don't want to let it go, but you know that you may be forced to let it go. That's why you hold a dog like that. You say, you know, oh, you got to earn this connection.
I am picking a fight with Joe Rogan. Yeah, the principal. Yeah.
Dog's like, what the hell? Help me.
Okay, you can call it crazy as much as you want, but crazy won't stop and won't sleep until I either get invited on the podcast.
Okay. Fucking no. I would never be in a room with this fucking psycho. And I will say he made an excellent point there. And he knows this to be true. But he does look like a man that hasn't slept. If I'm looking at him, and you saw this guy, this red, you know, at fucking 5 a.m. in the fucking gas station, you're concerned. You're concerned he might have a person that he's already captured earlier that morning. I mean, he's been awake he's on a bender.
Joe Rogan, you have to invite me, please, I'm asking. Or else I'm just going to come to Austin for 1 week. 1 week, it starts today, right now. It starts today.
Yeah,
I don't even know what day it is. But it's starting.
He doesn't know what day it is.
Not going to go.
Okay, this man says he doesn't know what day it is. He's been up for several days. You know, at first I thought I was coming into this and I was going to be able to just kind of make fun of him a little bit, but ultimately I was going to be like, it's kind of silly for them to go to those links if there's no real evidence of like him trying to like come to him directly. And he's just, but I don't know. Now I haven't watched these, so I am coming at it kind of ignorantly. It's like, I do see I have a few more. My producer here, aka my significant other, she went ahead, she screen recorded these so I didn't have to watch them, and I could give the raw reaction. I'm looking, I do have 3 more, so
Go to sleep, and I am going to sleep. I'm going to rest, but right now I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight for my family, for what's right, and I'm not going to stop.
Called that. This is a man losing his family,
and I'm going to.
And hold on, why is he losing his family, and why does he blame Joe Rogan for that? Look for Liver King's wife and check if Joe Rogan, if they're in the same place.
Fight
That's crazy.
until.
I'm sorry, you're just not being clear, sir.
Oh, there's a cockroach. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Yeah. Oh, there you little cockroach friend. Yeah. Oh, my friend. Do y'all see him? Yeah. Oh, come here, little cockroach friend. King time.
This man is actually scaring away the cockroaches. Holy shit. This man is putting fear and cockroaches in his own home. There's so many questions to ask. Why the cockroaches? Why are you getting on your hands and knees next to the cockroaches while, caressing the family dog? Was there a weapon in that video? I didn't spot one, but I just want, if there's anybody with an eagle eye, it might be a good move for us to make. They already have him in custody, I guess. So I guess, hey, crisis averted.
I'm calling you out. My name's Liver King. Man to man. I'm picking a fight with you. Yeah.
Holy shit. Why does he look like he has plastic surgery abs? Like, holy shit, look at that. He looks like he's fucking fresh off the set of 300 in a bad way, though.
I have zero training in jiu-jitsu. You're a black belt. You should dismantle me. But I'm picking a
He wants to be dismantled by Joe Rogan. That's fucking sick, Paul.
fight with you. Your rules. Whatever you want me to weigh, I'll weigh it. I weighed 190 this morning. I'll come to you whenever you're ready. Whenever.
You gotta stop taking steroids. Which actually, I guess maybe Joe Rogan can't make that claim. Because, Joe Rogan talking about taking steroids his damn self or whatever the fuck the shit is that he's talking about on the show. I'm not saying they're steroids. Be cool.
You're ready to go. I'm on a vibration plate, by the way. That's what I'm saying.
He's got a baby's belly button. What's that about? Is he okay? If there's any people who are medical professionals in the audience, please let me know on that. Is his stomach in the middle of it? I'm sure he should be getting some treatment now. That's the problem with, what if that's what this is all about? Just our healthcare system being so fucked. The liver king gets cheaper for him to book a fucking flight to Austin, Texas and threaten Joe Rogan on his Instagram to get some medical care. Drugs. Drugs and mental illness are both. And the question, am I happy that I skipped listening to Bill O'Reilly to watch this? The answer is yes.
Yeah, that's pretty entertaining, right? But the value is the principle. You can't pick a fight with a real king and then expect there not to be an actual fight, bro. The liar king, yeah.
You fool.
You can call me all those names, but the minute my family is received an expected a version less than what they earned because of the fucking Untold Truth movie, you're a liar, Netflix.
You're a liar, Netflix. That might have been the documentary I watched. All right. We're going to get back to this fucking total crash out that's happening right now, but holy shit. I'm glad I didn't see this before I went live because I am actually a little fucking distraught. And he does need to be in some kind of custody. Joe Rogan broke this man down on a podcast without him ever being present and completely shattered his view of himself, his family's view of him. He's like, Joe Rogan's destroyed the way my family views me. Until my son will look at me the same. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan might also, by the way, it just doesn't even sound right to call him Joe. You can't call him by just his first name. It's got to be Joe Rogan every time. He gets first and last. Usually that's a sign of a psychopath. I've conducted a few interviews and such where people use first and last names. It's just like a fucking tick or characteristic of a fucking psycho. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, no, Sherry Thomas at my other job, I had this, when you're asking for like an example of some shit. But Joe Rogan, just for whatever reason, that's how he got marketed. It's Joe Rogan. But goddamn, yeah. Joe Rogan fucking, his whole, that's the thing when your viewership's so crazy like Joe Rogan. Shout out to him. Shout out to Joe Rogan, got the whole family listening.
Sam Pounding.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, you snapped. You had the whole family, the sons, the fucking mom was listening to the Joe Rogan Experience. They never look at this motherfucker the same ever. Golly, because it's a Joe Rogan thought this is the thing. He's like, I'm just chilling. I'm a comedian. I'm having conversations. The motherfucker's talking to your whole family. He's talking to your whole family intimately on the podcast, and he's telling, oh my God, they don't look at you the same. That's sick. You got a family full of JRE listeners, and he's fucked up about it. He was a listener himself. I don't think he views himself the same. I think not only was the sons listening to the JRE, and the wife was listening to the JRE, which is crazy. Your fucking wife is listening to, wow. But no, I think the Liver King definitely was tuning in for that Joe Rogan Experience. You feel what I'm saying? And we're all looking for that JRE experience. You feel it, you know? So it's like Liver King's just yelling it to the rooftops.
Joe Plural Man, who directed the movie You're a Liar Till You Come Back. Joe Rogan, you're not a liar. You're actually good and fucking true. A wolf, you're not really. A king, not yet, about to be. But you're good and true, and I'm picking a fight with you. I bet you $1 million. Whoever fucking wins the fight between you and me, whoever wins donates.
All right, my bad. The screen recording got cut off there. I don't know if he was finishing where we were donating. But one thing is, this guy has fucking Beowulf playing in the background the entire time while he rants. That's fucking crazy. It's crazy how performative and set up this is. I mean, this is far more set up than the podcast I have here. I'll be honest. There's some videos I liked. I went and found those videos. You know, I found this background on the internet that I liked. I put it behind me. There was some thought that went into this video. Don't get it twisted. And I'm a little shitty that it's not out here getting pushed out a little bit more. Fucking YouTube, get your shit. This is why I gotta get shadow banned, because whenever I get on this goddamn mic, I gotta say fuck you to YouTube every goddamn time. But either way, I digress. This shit right here with the fucking liver man is just problematic. Yeah, families are in danger. You know, you call the FBI in this situation. Like Paul said last week, shout out to him. You know, he got the FBI involved in his own little, that might not have been on the podcast, but Paul, you understand, man. You understand. We're vibing. And it's 2 hours in. We're locked in. Make sure you subscribe, share this thing. It's like everybody that likes to talk. Everybody you know that likes to talk. Just share this shit to them. And yeah, and even people that don't like to talk. I don't even need them to talk. Just send that shit to them. They like to just sit there and be quiet. If they like to listen, that's even better, honestly. So definitely send it to those people.
Not so much to be entertaining unless you want the algorithm to do things. Joe Rogan, I want your attention this week. I know today I'm leaving with my family at 12 o'clock. If you'll invite me to the podcast, you can release me of the nonsense.
Okay, so listen, he's with his family. I'm hoping that I got these videos in chronological order. It doesn't make sense because the last video, he said he's going to Austin. Now they're like, hey, we're about to board the fucking helicopter or whatever the fuck he's trying to say. He got the parachute on his back. This is the motherfucker. He's gonna take a plane to Austin, Texas with his family. They're gonna get around Austin, Texas, and he's gonna say, all right, guys, I'm out. I'm gonna hop out here. See you at the airport. Jumping out with the fucking parachute. And then the mom just sits there. Goddamn, boys. I guess we just gotta listen to the JRE. That's your daddy. Your daddy's not the Liver King. Your daddy is the JRE Experience. Listen to him. Let him teach you how to be a man. It's fucking crazy. Liver King, I'm just saying, you're fucking wilding out, bro. You know you're wilding out. I'm not even trying to be mean. And sometimes what I'm saying, I'm realizing, like, damn, I'm really fucking cooking his ass right now. I'm not intentionally meaning to. I'm feeling a generous nature of just happiness. So it's like, brother, I'm just like you. I'm just like you. And I'm just like, holy shit. I see the family's all JRE fucking fans, and that's a problem. That is definitely a problem.
In the meantime, this is what we're going to get, guys. I'm waiting for Joe Cohen. I lost him. He's my high priest.
High priest.
We're going to go track him down. Let's go track him down.
Bro,
whoa.
This man's priest dipped out on him. This priest was like, yeah, no fucking helping him. Even the high priest was like, oh, okay, this is a fucked up scenario. I'm not going to be accomplice to Joe Rogan's murder. I'm gone. That's fucking crazy. He's like, let me find him. Imagine when he found that high priest. Good God. Only God knows what happened to that poor high priest. That poor little Vietnamese man. That's probably his high priest. Who knows? Make an assumption there just for fun. Let's see this last one. Oh,
Because
shit.
Joe Rogan.
Oh, fuck. He went Nightcrawler into the camera. Okay, that was a different entry point. All right. Wow. All right. So let's lock in for this one. Okay. So he's approaching with the ape stance. He's trying to assert his dominance.
Everything. Because Joe Rogan, we don't have to make videos to pretend anymore.
Okay. Does he want to get on the Joe Rogan Experience, or does he want to be in the next fucking Batman film? Because one of those things is more likely than the other. And it's not going on the Joe Rogan Experience, but next Batman, possible. Honestly. Listen to the delivery here, the shakiness in the voice. The motherfucker is almost on Heath Ledger status. Now we know how that ended. Golly, I'm sorry about that. But we know how that ended.
Everything. Because Joe Rogan, we don't have to make videos to pretend anymore. All of this is happening. We're coming to you. I've challenged you man to man to a fight. Honorable. And we don't have to pretend or make any videos. The world is watching. They'll make the videos for us. And you don't have to hold a camera. You can hold the hand of somebody that you love, because what happens next to you, you're going to need to remember that feeling. You're going to need something more than what you did to give you something to fight for, because I have my family to fight for. And I'll die for them, you know that. And you're a black belt, but you've never come.
He does have, it looks like he walks on the ground a lot. Like his hands, it looks like his fingers, there's something like just disfigured about his fingers a little bit. Am I right about that? They're just a little stumpy, kind of, for like the rest of what his hand looks like. His fingers look like they're too small for his hand. They just look like they're made for just crawling around on the ground like a little monkey.
Come across something like this, willing to die, hoping that you'll choke me out. I pray to God, because that's a dream come true. It feels good. And then the limbs.
Holy shit. Somebody choked this guy. Somebody choked this guy out, I think. I'm going to go with that. I think somebody choked him. There was oxygen not going to his brain for too long. And then now we got this new level of the Liver King. The Liver fucking man.
I'm fighting for my family.
Yeah.
So limb. Go ahead. But then you have to contend with something else. And I weigh 177 pounds. An actual savage. So at first you're like, fuck that guy. And right when you all of a sudden he did get your attention, which I already did before this.
Fuck that guy.
You're saying, I'm gonna choke that motherfucker, that piece of fucking shit. I'm gonna choke him out. That's what warriors do. You and Andrew Tate are good warriors. But you're actually better than that. Real tension we have. Comedy that you do is good and true. We have real tension. But what I see in you is comedy is good and true. Touch points. Oh, people laugh. If we don't make fun of them at their expense, they laugh. You should all make fun of me. You should all make fun of me at my expense. Trust me, that it still works. And then you should get paid for it. And let's go. Because we're leaving. We're going to Austin. What was my very last point?
That we're gonna kick Joe Rogan's ass?
The real G said it. Oh, it's my speech. Justin Fitz.
What the fuck? All right. Holy shit. Okay. That's a Chris Benoit situation. Get him the fuck out of there. I'm serious. All right, Joe Rogan, whoever called, Joe Rogan, you were right. We could just flatly say we saw enough evidence. He just put out enough evidence on himself. Good God. Get that man out of society, out of population centers. Austin, Texas should have been on they should have been in the bomb shelter like they were in Tel Aviv. The fucking liver man is coming. Everybody get in your fucking bomb shelters. We don't know what the fuck he's about to do. Red flags. They let him get on a fucking flight. Did he make it to Austin, Texas? I'm kind of confused now. I thought at one point he might have been in Austin, Texas. I'm not clear. Okay, now I got to see where he got arrested. Fuck. All right. Damn it. All right. If they let him fly, the FBI is tripping. Liver King arrest. Yeah. What happened with this? Did he get fucking arrested? Joe Rogan, good job. Call that shit in, brother. There's no reason to fucking have a judo match with the motherfucker with 8 hands. Hell no. And I don't think any less of you. Although if you would have choked him out, that shit would have been pretty cool. But then again, would it have? You know what I mean? At the same time, it's like, would Bruce Lee have fucking knocked his ass out? Fucking, would Bruce Lee have stepped on this man's chest like he did fucking, Chuck Norris? Yeah. The answer is, I don't think he would. He'd be like, this man's mentally ill. Let's get him to the fucking hospital and away from his family temporarily. Nobody wants to take him away from his family. I don't. But shit, if I was his family, I would be a little concerned. Man to man, I'm picking a fight with you. Those are just some good quotes. Black belt, Brazilian, he would fight whenever you're ready. No, we want to see where he got fucking arrested at. The Austin Police Department said this remains an active investigation decline. Who gained fame by okay, come on now. A video posted to Johnson's Instagram account shows the moments before his arrest. He is seen pacing the room, discussing his impending prison time and a fight with Rogan. Yeah, bro, you got a fight with the fucking Aryan Brotherhood or whoever the fuck else you're gonna be fighting with in prison. Fuck around. Come on. I'm just saying, don't let that happen. Plus, you're not gonna be able to go out there and bleach your asshole or whatever it is. He had some other shit where it's like your ass needed to be in the sun. I think that was him. An officer is seen patting him down while he is handcuffed. Johnson is then taken to a police car. Man, gained fame by being a fucking basically, yeah. So Joe Rogan completely fucking destroyed this man's entire fucking ego self. Joe Rogan never knew that he would become an actual trip himself. He became a mushroom trip for somebody else and actually caused them to have an ego death to the point to where, I mean, he's completely fucked outside of his mind. He's losing his family. Had to bounce for a second, just picking back up. They were ready to make a nuke before now. I have no question about that. Why? Because Iran wants to be the regional hegemon. That's true. Yeah, the same as Saudi and Turkey. I don't disagree with you at all, and I think that's all true. And I think that's why, not wanting Iran to get a nuclear weapon is completely fair. That's something we can agree on. It's just a matter of like, how do we go about preventing that? I think we could have went about it more diplomatic standard. We literally were engaging in diplomatic talks, and then slimily fucking had talks actually set, were prepared to continue to negotiate in them, and and then basically Israel attacked Iran during that. We knew about it. So there's just issues with it all around. I'm actually about to hop off because it's late, and it's crazy to say this, but I'm about to eat dinner. That's fucking nuts. But I got to this when I got home pretty much. So I'm gonna definitely be on here tomorrow though with Paul. I'm hoping to get a little bit more traction. I'm telling you, this fucking shadow ban shit, it's real, and I don't even know if it's just sometimes you hit the wave and you sometimes fucking don't. It's just crazy. But we were in here vibing. This was a quality episode. It was very fun to sit here and chop it up with Jay. Jay was awesome. I said that before, you might have had to dip out at that time, but I do appreciate you, brother, and I do appreciate you just adding to the conversation and just helping keep it moving, keeping it lively, and adding your perspective. I mean, paying tribute to not have nukes. You can't keep doing that. Yeah, I agree. I do think, like I said, at a certain point, you have to have some kind of agreement, some kind of off-road. But I mean, like I said, if you step away, I don't love the idea of like America being involved. And not even just the foreign conflicts, but kind of like what you're saying, where it's like, having to foot the bill to prevent Iran from doing this or other countries from doing this or that. I totally agree with you, and I totally see that issue. But one thing that we do have to consider is that if we're not that kind of like global force, then it just opens up a vacuum, and it's going to be the same thing. 10-4, buddy. I'll catch up with you. I would love to jump on a panel. So no, absolutely. I don't know if you saw it, but I dropped it in the comments. But the software I'm using has changed recently, so I'm wondering what the fuck might be with that. As far as like I was paying for like the extra version, and I'm not paying for the extra version anymore. So who knows what kind of fuckery comes with that, brother. It's not letting me stream to other platforms currently, so I got to look into like what other options might let me do that. I don't know if you want. Oh no, I don't really mind. It's just yeah, never mind. I never mind, to be honest. If you have something you want to hop on here, I appreciate you hopping in the comments though, because it does help with the algorithm, so communicate something to YouTube. So I appreciate anybody that is watching hopping in here into the level you are. Like, I mean, yeah, how else can you take that from YouTube than, you know, the audience that was watching was engaged? So I seriously appreciate that, and I think that makes a difference. And make sure you hit the like button if you didn't. I'm sure you did, Jay, but that's anybody in here that didn't. Please do make sure to do that to help out with the algorithm. Share the content with anybody that, like I said, likes to talk. Like, if they like to talk, they don't like to talk, share the shit. Yeah, I'm never trying to like necessarily just run it completely solo, but I do want to be comfortable to hop on here and just talk about this shit. If like tonight, last night Paul was going to come through, and I ended up on C's panel, and I ended up sitting there hanging out with him for a while until like actually like 5 a.m. We were out fucking chilling. It's crazy. Which we got to chop it up, which was dope. Over, I'm here. It's a comment party. Yeah, I know, 100%. And sometimes we get good communication. It's just a matter of getting the finding that right time to definitely hit the audience, because I know at least I can post on YouTube. So even if I'm not getting pushed in the algorithm correctly, or sometimes my family members and shit will hit me up after the live the next day, and they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't get the notifications." So either they're fucking scumbag liars, or sometimes that happens with YouTube, and I can say, you know, I think that happens on my end as well. Although usually I'm perusing YouTube, so I end up, you know, running across it anyway. So if you are live, I might catch you regardless. But that's just me. But yeah, I got some chicken wings. It's a crazy hour to do it, but I got to go eat these chicken wings and enjoy the rest of my night. My daughter is still up, so I want to just hang out with her for, you know, an hour, however long she might have before she's conking out. And then I'll be definitely back on here tomorrow. So anybody that's on here right now, like I said, like, share, subscribe, do the thing, and make sure you're here tomorrow. I'm going to have Paul here for sure. Cody should be here as well. Want to hear his opinion, being a veteran. I definitely want to hear his opinion on the war. I think that's super valuable. And a lot of times, you know, especially people who are war hawks, I think you have to be extremely cautious with when you're sitting there advocating for a war that you're not going to fight. You know, I'm happy to stand on the position of anti-war and say that I don't think we should be sending our troops in the middle of, you know, these wars to die for other countries' benefit. I don't see how it benefits the United States. And even if it did, it would still be it would be a hard case to make for that kind of like intervention or kind of action. So yeah, you know, I watched a video. It was on one of those like debate channels where you had, you know, some lady that was sitting there arguing to a U.S. vet. He's the anti-war position, and she's arguing against him. And it's just like, well, you got to kind of like acknowledge your position as a little absurd. I think it was on Tim Pool. It was definitely on Tim Pool. Now I'm thinking about it. So I just thought that was interesting. But either way, so yeah, much love. We're gonna cook it up here again. I definitely have. I don't know if I'll watch the Young Turks, fucking crying about their audience thinking they're fucking dumb, but I have that, so I might watch it. And also Skip Bayless talking to his wife about a hall pass. Did his wife say that she wanted fucking LeBron James to bring through that fucking BBC? Most likely she didn't say that, but most likely was she thinking it? Most likely she was. And that is politics, we're out. Much love. We'll be in this thing again tomorrow. I'm shooting for around 9, but expect me around 10, baby. But check for me around 9.